Make sure you follow us. We are also taking live calls. The number is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Please write down that number, save it somewhere. 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Later tonight, we'll talk about hidden taxes the Diasporans or the Kenyan government, but they don't know about it. The Kenya Revenue Authority has an upcoming impending deadline, so stay tuned to find out when and how much you owe. And feel free to start dropping comments below in the comment section if you know or you plan to pay the tax collector and and the money that you owe. So please start typing in the comment section. Na bila kusahau, tunapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ Omosh Fire, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och, jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now this hour we'll be talking to the chair of the Courier Industry Association of Kenya, Hilary Itela. He'll be talking about the pending finance bill and the impact it may have on diaspora Kenyans. Now, Itela will also be advising us on whether it's worth investing back home amid the looming tax hikes. So please drop a comment in the comment section below and tell us where you are tuned in from. And I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. It's Friday the 14th of June, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Please remember to follow The One Mic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. On panel with me is Mr. One Mic Kamakawa. Sports anchor Mika Och will join us via Zoom. Our resident DJ Omosh Fire is here tonight. And maybe he will tell us where he has been all this time. And also not forgetting super producer Mubelwa Bandio. And before we get started, I want to welcome a couple of the listeners who I see they're already here. I can see Indefatigable Wanjeri is already here. Please tell us something. Tell us where you're tuned in from, Indefatigable. Washeke kama kawaida yuko pale ndani tayari. Welcome to the One Mic Show, Washeke. And fellow Chinjerian Onyango Hingo anasema, say hi to my classmate Hilary. Salamu tutafikisha. So stay tuned up, Onyango Hingo. And remember, you can call your friends at Highlight, at Everyone, at Top Funds, all those things. Like people ask, how do I support the One Mic Show? It is simple things like this. Just tag your friends, let them come on here so that they know, what's going on. And of course, not forgetting Cape Fear Rugby Sevens is going to be happening within a week from now, from June the 21st to the 23rd in Wilmington, North Carolina. We're going to be talking about that. So start getting your tickets now. DJ Sani Sistuki, DJ Shinsky will be in the building. So this is one of those events that you don't want to miss as the summer rugby season begins. Now, we're going to get started right away. And as we know that Kenya has always been an attractive destination for foreign investors and diaspora Kenyans. We have people who've been investing in real estate, in farming, and even in treasury bills. These are just some of the popular options that diasporans choose for investments in Kenya. Now, the question on whether it's worth keeping these investments amid outrage over the pending finance bill is now looming large across diaspora circles. Almost every sector, from manufacturing to vehicle owners, to mamambogas and mutia boda boda, they are all being affected if these sweeping proposals will take effect. Now on the show tonight, to help us make sense of how Kenya's Finance Bill 2024 might affect us in the diaspora, is the board chair of the Courier Industry Association of Kenya, CIAK, Hilary Itela. Now Mr. Itela was on the One Mic Show exactly a year ago, discussing last year's finance bill and that had a contentious housing levy and new digital taxes on online content creators. This was exactly a year ago. Wow. It was very surprising for me to find out. He was maybe off by a day or two, but it was almost exactly the same time that he was here on the show. Now, Mr. Itela is the immediate former board chair of Technology Service Providers of Kenya, TESPOC. He's also a former director at Kenya Rugby Union, KRU, and he will talk some rugby later on the show. Rugby Sevens, the Kenya rugby team, Shujaa, and of course Cape Fear Sevens. Now his ambition is to see Africa unlock its potential and lead the world in a digital revolution. But before we get to how the finance bill will affect us in the diaspora, Bwana Itela, karibu sana to the One Mic Show. And how are you feeling today?
Very much. Always happy to be back at the Kamukunji. You know, unlike the Kamukunji in Nairobi where you're chased by tear gas and stones, this tends to be a very peaceful one. So I'm happy to be on and glad to see all of you guys.
Safi sana. You're talking about Kamkunji. You are meant to be physically here in the Kamkunji. Why is it that we're doing this interview on Zoom? You know, explain that to the audience.
Well, let's just say I got stuck in Atlanta.
Okay, so you're still in Atlanta, the same Atlanta that Omosh got stuck in.
Yeah, I think we decided to trade places.
Okay. Yeah. Because we need to send, you know, like we need to send a party out there to find out what's happening in Atlanta, because our co-host here, DJ Omosh Fire, we sent him there. He was the official representative of the One Mic show when the president came. We don't know what happened there. He never showed up until he never came
back. The pictures in Georgia.
Yes, until today. So DJ Omosh Fire, let me take this opportunity to invite DJ Omosh Fire. DJ Omosh Fire, karibu sana kwa show. Wasikilizaji hapa, wapenzi wachangiaji, wanataka kujua, you know, like what happened to you. You went with the one mic show money and you disappeared.
Alhamdulillah, asante sana kwa kunikaribisha hapa kwa show yenyu. Unajua, naweza ona rafiki yangu yuko hapa, Hilary Itela, amekuja kutoka kule Kenya, Nairobi, na yuko sasa mjini Atlanta. Na waendaje watazamaji?
Okay, now did you receive a brown envelope?
Sielewi hiyo Kiswahili waongea na hizo vitu nasema.
Okay, because we see like you also went to the salon, changed your hairstyle. We're gonna find out if anyone saw Omosh while he was in Atlanta. Please report what he was doing or if he was purchasing something. But anyway, we're gonna get back to the show. I can see Washeke is already tuned in saying huko ATL kuna mambo. People keep getting stuck. So we will try to figure out what's going there. So going back to Hila. Anyway, before we go back to Hila, Uno Mike,
yes, sir.
Salimia wachangiaji na wasikilizaji na watazamaji.
Wachangiaji, watazamaji, muriega, habari zenu, and of course, ultimately in the Queen's proper language.
Yes.
Idamu gaidhia.
Okay, sawa. Na is Mika already tuned in?
We are going to bacteria.
Okay. Mika, salimia watu dakika moja mbili and then we're gonna continue. Mika.
Party people ko Omosh. Like all these years, I don't know why you keep on saying party people ni emotional.
By the way, hiyo kitu Mika imenini, it's tired. Mwambie waache.
Maze wachana nayo, like hey, achana nayo vile umeachana na wait.
Hey, calm down. Come slowly.
Wow.
Okay.
Anyway, wacha nisalimie Ila, thank you for coming in. I hope uko Atlanta ukulishwi kunde sana ukatalia huko. Wanakupea nyama kidogo. Wasikuonesha Amerika ni kuteseka tu kila saa. Pia tunasherehe. Tuna maisha mzuri. Omosh, you need to tell us or you need to share the pictures you came with. Hawezi kulipotea for 3 weeks na tukuone. That is you need to face disciplinary issues.
I know Baka, his family was looking for him. His family members were asking, where is this guy? You know, like we are trying to reach him. He's unreachable.
Wanafikiria tumekuuza. Baka ananiuliza kama bado niko Kenya na umekuja kunijoin.
Sawa. We're going to talk about that later. But going back to Hila, you know, like currently in the US, what exactly brought you to the US? How long have you been around?
Thank you, guys. I got into the US on the 22nd of May. I was part and parcel of the contingent that traveled from Kenya under the auspices of the American Chamber of Commerce and Industry Kenya chapter for a business forum at Washington, D.C. on Friday 24th. So I've been in for about 3 weeks, about 22 or 23 odd days, and I'm in for another 13 days before I head back and kupambana kwa Kenya. Okay. It's been a very insightful visit. Of course, one of the key things that we were looking at was trying to understand who would be keen on trying to come around and invest in Kenya, so we're making a bit of headway in there. But of course, with every good thing comes a couple of obstacles, and it's actually quite timely we're talking about the potential impact that any of the proposed changes within the finance bill and the appropriations act may potentially have or potentially harm anyone who's looking at considering on investing in Kenya.
Wow. Now this is quite an interesting junction. Now, when you came on May the 22nd, that wasn't the date that the Hustler jet came in. So you did not come in with a Hustler jet.
For clarity,
Yeah.
I came with I was part and parcel of the business community.
Okay.
I did not come for the shuttle diplomacy bit.
Okay. We were just
Wow.
just being clear.
Tulikuwa tuna confirm tu kukuwa na Omosh. Tuna confirm hapa tunafanya separation of things. Hii disciplinary committee
Yes.
inapata information sahi pole pole tu.
I know. We are slowly collecting information, and we are gonna release a comprehensive report. Now, let's just get started here at the most basic level, and let's now maybe get onto issues on how the new taxes will affect diaspora Kenyans. You are the board chair, or rather, before we get to the issues that will affect diaspora Kenyans, now you're the board chair of the Courier Industry Association of Kenya, CIAK, which is a non-profit with a membership of licensed courier operators in Kenya. Now, briefly tell us about this organization, what it does, because as far as we are concerned, Kenyans stop sending mail, like posta is almost non-existent. So tell us what this organization is and what exactly it does.
All right, so the Courier Industry Association of Kenya is a lobby group that has well over 250 companies that indulge in both local, that is domestic courier within Kenya, and international courier. So you're talking about your typical players such as FedEx, DHL, G4S, Wells Fargo in Kenya, UPS, who run their service via G4S. You're talking about some of the smaller matatu circles that also indulge in ferrying items up and about. So if you're to look at the courier industry within Kenya, it's probably valued at close to a revenue turnover close to about 500,000 shillings each and every single month. That's about, give or take, $4 to $4.5 million. So of course, if you'd remember during COVID, when people were not able to go around and interact, there's a lot of peer-to-peer transactions on e-commerce, etc. So the courier industry was really key and responsible to ensure that services were still provided for, medication still mandatory to each and every corner of the country. And of course, we are licensees of the Communications Authority of Kenya, because Courier as a business is regulated by the Communications Authority of Kenya. So of course, there's a lot of big talk on last mile connectivity, on being able to ensure that if you're particularly coming in to do business in Kenya, how do you get your route to market? Who do you go around and partner with? So of course, with that as a background, there was definitely a need for me to get into the US, just to understand some of the innovative sort of organizations that would be keen on getting commodities into Kenya and seeing how we can actually partner with them.
Wow, this is quite interesting, because Kenya once had a very efficient postal service, but it kind of fizzled out, and courier services were taken over by private enterprise. So it's really interesting to know in this new age that we are coming in, where logistics is going to become very important, as the African countries are starting to connect with each other, integrating, and these trade agreements are coming to life. Logistics in how goods move from one point to another within a country and outside a country is going to be very important. So I think we're going to get you another day, like in here, to specifically talk about, logistics and courier services in Kenya, because it's one very complicated thing. Whenever I want to send something somewhere, I tend to find that I kind of need, like someone who knows how to send parcels. Like if you want to send a parcel from Nairobi to Mombasa, or maybe Nairobi to Kisumu, or
Tahamid.
yeah.
Easy coach.
So those are the things that, and then most people here are very Americanized. So sometimes the questions that we go asking when we go back home leave people shaking their heads.
Perplexed.
You can go like to G4S and send a package.
But that's
that's what Hila was saying.
That's what I'm
those are
saying.
his
Like
members, yes.
if I want to send something like
Yeah.
to whatever to Nairobi from Kilifi,
yeah.
I would just go to, there's a G4S carrier who apparently just the other day, I think also UPS was also sort of added, but it's one place. Then you write, you send, let's say I'm sending to Ali.
Yeah.
This is the number, this is the person, whatever. Then ikifika unapigiwa, ikiwa Nairobi unaenda unachukua.
The complicated question is, what if I want to send a parcel from Tana River to Marsabit?
Same chap.
Basi
same chaps, or
Yeah.
you use
Yeah.
Easy Coach, or
Yeah.
you take whatever buses go out there. They take parcels as well.
But
Yeah.
that's, I see the complication.
Yes.
That's
That's not easy.
no, it's not.
Tana River to Marsabit or to Wargadud.
But chances are,
Yeah.
they have already perfected the system. There's an ecosystem surviving in there.
There's
in
a
that
chap
transport.
who moves from
There's-
that point.
Yes.
That person will ferry, whether they are official or unofficial, but they will ferry
Yes.
Okay.
because
Aye.
goods need to move.
Aya, sawa sawa. We're going to talk about that later on. But Stephen JJ is in the building. Karibu sana, Tabitha and Jerry. Welcome to the One Mic Show. Lineta Yuko. Thank you so much for tuning in. Washake says, Hilary amesema sio kujivunia kuwa Mkenya. Sasa ni kupambana kuwa Mkenya. I want to remind the listeners that you're tuned in to the One Mic
that's
Show.
somebody zooming in.
And I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. Our guest tonight, of course, is Hilary Itela, the board chair of Courier Industry Association of Kenya, CIAK. Now, Itela is also a former director of the Kenya Rugby Union, so keep it locked, because he will be talking about the current state of Kenya Rugby, with Shujaa being promoted back into the World Series. We'll shortly be asking him if it's a legal requirement for Kenyans living abroad to file taxes. So stay tuned for that. But before we continue, I can see Anthony Joroge here has a comment. And Anthony Joroge says, what's all this going on deactivating KRA PIN number in Kenya? That's a question. We're going to talk about KRA PIN numbers. So Anthony Joroge, very good question. We're going to be talking about that. But before we continue, Uno Mike,
Yes.
there's something that will be happening in Wilmington, North Carolina on
Yeah.
the weekend of June 21st to June the 23rd. Briefly tell us what's going to be happening.
Meaning next weekend.
Yeah, next weekend, in short.
So briefly, what is going to be happening is there is going to be the competition, Kenya Exiles. So these are the former players, probably who used to be in 254, and also guys who love rugby.
Mm-hmm.
It's a competition that happens every year. It's
Okay.
called Cape Fear,
Uh-huh.
and now imeshika moto. I think not because we were relegated, but it just so happened that we were relegated, but we came back. But now imeshika moto.
To understudy
To understudy-
vibes.
it's
This
to
is to
understudy
understudy vibes.
because
if
we
you
are
ask me.
Kenyans
Yeah.
who previously played rugby
Okay.
that
Yeah.
are here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be, and it's a competition.
Okay.
Teams are coming from all over.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be Keria. The person who put it together is a guy called Benny Fiongo, who I'm hoping is gonna be a surprise guest.
Benny Camerationg.
Oshio.
Okay.
And then of course we've been lined up a very good spectacular lineup by Sistuki and Shinsky. So it's gonna be fun.
Okay.
And I think next year, if you're just hearing about it, next year around this time, June, Cape Fear, Wilmington, North Carolina.
And there's water there, so you can carry your angothas.
Yes, you can. It's right by the beach.
Unajua ungeambia watu 2 years ago anaenda kupiga sherehe North Carolina wangekutukana.
Sahi wanadai kujua.
Hawana choice.
ati hao ndio wako.
Wao ndio wako.
Sisi ndio tuko. But anyway, the funny thing is this, rugby by the beach. Even leo hakuna rugby by the beach. Mnapelekwa huko ndani. It's rugby by the beach. And then it's that no pressure rugby, right? Like even at the beach, there's that relaxation and you're having fun with the players and the terms, because the players are people you know, are people you've seen. Usishangae hata ukipata wanamaika ameingia kwa kiwanja juu ya kukuwa na saba. So you just show up. You just show up. Like if you know you ever touch rugby ball, kimbia tafuta pumzi ya kukimbia hata 2 minutes. Unaweza tumiwa ka super sub. But the whole idea is having fun. There are activities that are centered around, like they're giving you time to go chill at the beach, so you can come, you can turn it into a vacation, a family thing. Like, make sure you show up at the end of the day. It's gonna be a good weekend. It's gonna be some nice, fantastic rugby. You have some very good rugby players by the end on our tunyenyua ngambe. Mnakutana nao kwa klabu, mnaona huyu jamaa yuko tu, you'll see them in the picture, you'll be surprised how good they are. And then you know who's playing at night. Those 2 DJs don't need any introduction, and all the people with good vibes are gonna be there. So if you're looking for a good time, it's summertime, you wanna be outside, that's a weekend for you. That's a weekend plan from Thursday to Monday. So you have 4 days to choose between which ones you want to come.
Okay, but the official start is Friday, June 21st. Of course, you can arrive before on June the 20th.
Yes.
And I have posted the link in the comment section of the Facebook of where you can get the tickets. for the after parties, and then also details about the tournament itself. The tournament itself is free.
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, it's free. So no entry, no jumping fences,
No jumping your fences.
Yeah, I remember in Kenya, Kenyans were very famous for jumping fences in Las Vegas.
Yes,
at some point. Yeah. So here, no jumping fences. Don't start planning about how to jump a fence because it's free to go watch the tournament.
I'm glad Omosh will not have to jump fences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
the last people I saw jumping fences in Vegas were from Baltimore. I just want to put that story out there.
Okay. Actual people from Baltimore. And
Actual people from Baltimore. And I can point them out.
Names, but we're not naming names.
No, I am not naming names. And they jumped fence. And it was not one or two. Walikuwa say kama kirende 10.
Okay.
Who was there guarding the fence?
I was not guarding a fence.
Who was there directing people how to...
I was a chap who was outside the venue.
Jumping the fence.
Zero chance.
Okay. All right. Sawa sawa.
Na watu wa bima ujijua.
All right. So sawa sawa. So that's going to be Cape Fear 7s. You know, make sure you get your tickets ready. Now I think we're going to go back to Hila. And we want to start this at the most basic level. At a level that involves everyone in the diaspora. And Hila, this is sending money back home, aka remittances. As far as most of us know, money sending apps do not charge us fees. We just send money and people receive it on the other side. Now, how are remittances getting impacted by the finance bill of 2024? Hila.
Thank you. So the proposal that they have on the table right now is to introduce a tax that will require 0.5% of the value of anything that is remitted back into Kenya to be taxed. And that is for both incoming, that's inflow and outflow. And you know, I think one of the biggest issues that I think they're trying and resolve, but they may not necessarily have done it the right way, is to try and ensure that if anyone brings in any cash, it is retained and it circulates within the Kenyan system. So take an example. If today you have $1 million, or rather you have a project that you need to execute and it's about $10 million. So if you perhaps decided that you'll go around and ensure that you'll deliver that money for the project in 5 batches of $2 million, each and every one of those particular batches will attract a 0.5%. So for the first $2 million, there will be $10,000 that will actually be charged as tax. And subsequently up until you finish all those 5 transactions. So you can then imagine, even before you've actually finished a project and you have had a chance to go around and execute anything, you've had a tax of $10,000 multiplied by 5, which is $50,000. That is not even, you know, any profit in itself. Now, if at some point in time, you were to then say, for example, you're building a resort. If after 2 years, you want to then go around and sell that particular resort and you spent $10 million and you're going to go around and get $15 million for as what you'll actually sell the property for. The $5 million on top of the initial cost of $10 million will now then go around and get another tax, which is capital gains tax, which has then been moved from 10% to 15%. So for that $5 million that you have made, there'll be 15% of it that you have to give back to the taxman. And if you want to then repatriate that money back home on the 15 million, you'll still get another 0.5%. So I think the end game is to try and ensure that any foreign currency that gets into Kenya stays and circulates within there. Is it necessarily the right thing to do? Of course, we've been struggling, particularly in the last 12 months, with a runaway dollar really devaluing the Kenyan shillings. But the one thing that this particular proposal risks is just it contravenes a free market enterprise, because I should have the freedom to put in my $1 million today. If I don't think it's not working in for me, I need to go to Uganda or South Africa, etc. The end game is to actually make it punitive or painful for someone to consider repatriating money out once it's already coming. So as it comes in, 0.5%. As it comes out, 0.5%. If there's actually any residual value that has been gained, the differential of that value gets 15% capital gain. So it still has not been confirmed. They still have until the 30th of June to consider whether that is the right way to deal with it. But for organizations, particularly multinationals who are looking at, repatriating funds and being able to ensure that there's equity, that in itself will be a point of concern. It is not necessarily in line with also all the shuttle diplomacy that the government of Kenya has been doing in the US, in Korea. I think the president is headed to Italy sometime.
He's already there.
He's roaming.
He's already in Italy.
He's roaming
Yes.
already.
Roaming.
He's
Yes.
roaming.
Roaming.
So as we are on a charm offensive, what we're not telling the fellows is that as you actually bring in that money, we'll actually penalize you for getting it out of the economy. And I think that's the end game. The end game is, yes, to actually get the investment, but to retain as much dollar liquidity in the country as possible.
So, Hila, I have a question for you on that. You raised something about multinationals. So, for instance, let's take an organization that currently is doing what I would call NGO type of work. And there is a service that they're providing. And because they are not for profit, what they normally would do is they would go out to sponsors or to people to give grants and so on and so forth. So let's say they're working on providing, I don't know, I'll just say housing for people in Kibera. And that project, is a $10 million project, like you have said. So they source for the money. They're given money from overseas. The money comes in, but as the money comes in, you're saying that they would be charged the, 0.5%. And then if there's any gains from that particular project, say that project then now is turned around and sold, and our housing projects that we are selling now, then they would then get capital gains tax of 15% on that particular property?
That is correct. In its current state of play, they have not been able to go and demarcate if there'll be any waivers on any organization. What they've actually set as a baseline is anyone who remits foreign currency into Kenya will be taxed at 0.5%. That's a proposal that's on the table. So it's basically to try and keep it within the family. And they're not doing it with the intentions of getting it done voluntarily, but they're making it painful.
So that's very punitive for folks who are actually providing a service, especially for the NGOs that come into Kenya to provide services. And I'm just saying, like your USAIDs, your Oxfams, and I was going to say Red Cross, World Education, whatever, those folks who actually are working projects or doing something. It seems like you're pushing these guys out, or they would need to find a different way to channel their money in, maybe work via TZ or something.
So I know for a fact most of the international aid agencies, particularly the ones linked to governments, would have the disbursements of the funds in the operating countries. So say, for example, USAID. USAID is an appendage of the US government.
Correct.
For all the projects that they have in Kenya, they have an office in here. So the money will actually be sent in from the US to the USAID office and then disbursed in Kenya. Now, whether each and every particular disbursement, including any disbursement that is done from one sovereign country to the other, will attract that 0.5%, the jury is still out there. But as it stands right now, anything that is not Kenya shillings coming in will attract 0.5% in the current proposal.
So sisi watu wa diaspora tukae tu ngumu na pesa zetu basically.
Ama mwanza kubeba pesa kwa rucksacks. You get back into the 80s.
That's what's gonna start happening. Like there's actually a couple of people who've been telling me that that's what they're gonna start doing. Like when someone is going, chukua 1,000, pelekea mama yangu. Chukua 500 pelekea fulani, or chukua 1,000 nendo ka deposit kwa account yangu, because when it's in the country as cash, then you can do it. And of course you already know it's illegal to travel. I think you have to declare if you're traveling with more than $10,000.
You have to declare, yes.
Yeah, you have to declare. So I think it's important for people to know that. For those
is the 10,000 the US or the 10,000 is Kenya?
No,
the 10,000 is the US. I don't know about getting into Kenya, but $10,000 is the US. If you're
correct
exiting the any US airport with more than $10,000 in cash,
yes,
you need to declare. So I think that's important for people to note.
Man, so am I to assume as well that if we are sending money via our these money wallets or e-wallets, which are basically coming across because it's originating as a dollar, but then it ingears, so is that going to be taxed?
Yes,
the same way?
Yes, because I think what people don't realize about this money sending services, they tell you that it's free. That's what they say.
They do a rate.
But here's the thing. There's a differential between the actual rate and the rate at which they're giving it to you. So this rate now, it's going to become bigger. If it was 3 shillings, it's gonna become 5 shillings. I just did, like some calculations. Like maybe if it cost you, let's say 750 to send 100K, I'm just saying, for example, it might now cost you 770 to send the same 100K. So we will be forking out more money from our bank accounts to send money to Kenya. So I think that's an important it's an important element for people to know, and people pay attention not to the exchange rate that the apps are giving you, but to the actual exchange rate that the market is offering. Because remember, even when the mobile wallet is receiving in Kenya,
Correct.
M-Pesa, there's
a fee that they charge.
There's a fee that they charge.
Transaction fee.
When they will receive it, but when they remove it, there's a transaction fee.
There's a transaction fee.
Yes.
For whoever. Yeah. For
And
that
that is-
person's wallet.
Yes. I mean, it. So technically, what the proposal was is, if I send Ali money, me I'm hit.
Correct.
Yeah,
Ali ikimfikia akienda kutoa
is hit.
ana hit.
So,
Yes.
So there's an
But
agreement.
he's
But
being
the
hit
thing
twice.
is,
He's being hit for tax as well
Yes.
as the rate
that
for
is the
SAFCOM,
proposal,
or-
because this is what's going to happen. Initially it was let's say 15% initially. So if I'm sending, because if you've noticed, when you're sending, if you send 100 bob, unaambiwa hapo 27 shillings, whatever it is.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
send.
that's-
There's a fee depending on the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
that you're
yeah,
sending.
yeah.
Yes.
So that one is gonna go up.
That's gonna go up.
Yes.
That one is gonna go up. But Nisikwe to diaspora, where we don't see fees,
But we won't see it.
and we think that
No.
yeah.
We're gonna get hit,
Yeah.
and that is going to is good. It's definitely
It's
going to
been
affect.
the
It's going
rate,
to affect
the
rates.
rate, the
with the
exchange rate,
differential.
exchange rate
yeah.
calculation. It will be
Courier.
okay.
Of course, that one will be hit.
So what costed you $1,000 before is now gonna be like 1,050 or
Yes.
something of that sort.
What? Yeah.
A couple of comments coming in here. Afro-Jamaican says this is not good, and I also want to welcome Udimadhenge is tuned in. Karibu sana. DJ Sani Sistuki is in the building, gonna be there for Cape Fear 7s. And then there was a question here that was coming from Anthony Njoroge, who said never file taxes, Kenya, and the rumors probably, or KRA. And then Afro-Jamaican says, you're Kenyan, so they can't refuse you. They can always tell me to leave. So I filed. Also, Afro-Jamaican is following all the rules.
I guess he filed either nil or he filed
Yeah.
whatever.
You can file nil.
Yeah, you can
and
file
we're
nil.
going to talk about those nil returns. Washeke says the 0.5% is very punitive. It means people will avoid Kenya as an investment destination. And then I can see Mimokwenange Karibu Sana. Udimadhenge says, is he justifying overtaxation? Udimadhenge, tell us who he is. Are you talking about?
He's the Hilary who brought the news.
Okay. And then Washeke says there are better ways to entice investors to keep their money in Kenya than what the government is proposing. And Afro-Jamaican says, so if I send shillings, it's not taxed. I think we established that differential is where the money transfer service is paying the fee, but they're taking it away from that difference.
That is wrong. That is wrong, Ali, because the tax is also going to affect when they come to money services. They're just not taxing the foreign exchange that's coming in. The tax is going to affect bank payments in Kenya. So basically, those people who used to go, like I would tell you that going to Kenya while you swap your card is the cheapest way for you to use your money. You get the best value for your dollar. But now the thing, because Kenyan vendors don't charge you any fees, they don't put the fees on the customers. It's them who take those fees. It's going to get to a point now with this new tax whereby they're going to have to tax because others will be going on losses. They'll be paying for too much help with that. So, and then another thing is also M-Pesa charges in Kenya are going to get taxed. So that service is going to get expensive. The fee is going to get higher.
Yes.
So it's not just affecting people who are sending dollars, but I think that if you go with Kenyan money and you send shillings, it's cheaper. All in all, is electronic money transfer in Kenya is going to get expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Indefatigable, asante sana Mika for that correction. And then Indefatigable and Jerry says Kenya requires you to declare anything above $5,000. And then Anthony Njoroge says
okay.
this bottom-up manifesto turning into an ugly thing. Washeke, is telling Afro-Jamaican it's still taxed because money transfer via M-Pesa, even within Kenya, is going to be taxed. And then Udi says those clowns are stealing. How come we don't pay for cash app fees? And then I can see Udi says there, file taxes, file nil. We're going to be talking about that. And then Udi further says, I have noticed the tax has already been applied. Check your Kenyan bank statement. It's being done undercover. Yes, I mean, those excise fees, I've always been seeing them, you know, like in my Kenyan bank statement. So now coming back here to the US, Uno Mike.
Yeah.
While we're planning for this episode, you asked me a question that got me thinking regarding the correlation between taxes in Kenya and people in the diaspora. Because the only taxes we worried about previously in the diaspora for a long time were IRS taxes.
Yes.
No one ever used to talk about Kenyan taxes, but now it's become a topic of conversation. When you talk to people, maybe like in Baltimore, what's the understanding about paying taxes to Kenya while living here? Do people are people getting it that now they're supposed to be paying taxes?
I'll say this: the people that I know who own property or who have got a building or their rental apartments or whatever, they are getting notices. They've been getting notices.
Where?
Yes, I'm talking about somebody who is here. I know somebody who had to fly to Kenya because you receive a letter from KRA. Because what these guys do, they come, they're like, who
They talk to soldier.
They talk to soldier, or they talk to somebody. They be like, so
low tech.
Yeah, they just come in and they say ati kuna nyumba zime nini hapa.
Yeah.
And then you say yes. Okay, ni gani? Na okay, na mwenye yuko wapi? Huyo yuko ngambo.
There are people who have received letters, and then you're being told.
You cannot own a house without
a pin.
Having they don't even go to soldiers.
Yeah,
like
but
in Kenya, if you buy a house, your details are there.
But what I'm trying to say here, Mika, is how would they know some of that information? They would have to they'd have to do the drive-by.
Almost uko na nyumba Kenya. Is that
correct?
Or not?
Yeah, no. But then what I'm trying to say is that how do they know that I'm living there or not?
So there are various ways they can go and get that information. Remember, even before you did the construction, you needed to get a couple of permits and you filed in your document, either via company with its PIN or as an individual with the PIN.
Correct.
So the low-hanging fruit is to go to the lands office or the fellows who give the county approvals and just get that data and try and confirm if any of those particular properties have been occupied, and if they have been occupied, whether it's the owner who's in it or someone who's renting it. And after that, it just becomes a snowball effect. Each and every 6 months, I think Courier has been getting close to about between 500 and 700 enforcement officers who are now being taken to the military camps for paramilitary training, because there's been some very nasty incidents that have happened in the last couple of years. When they go around and ask for fellows to pay up taxes, some of them have lost their lives in that line of duty. So then they're going paramilitary duty. And late last year, it was actually quite interesting. In November, I had traveled out of the country. So my younger brother was at my farm in Busia. The enforcement officers came in through and they said, fine, what is the land holding in here? He gave the acreage. Who owns the land? It's my brother. What does he do? So they could see a couple of avocado trees in there, close to about 300 of them. And, they could see a couple of cows, etc. So they asked for an entire inventory. So if you say you've got 4 cows, they'll write it down. And they'll assume that if only 50% of your cows give you at least 10 liters of milk in a day, that's 10 liters multiplied by 30 days. That is 300 liters. A liter is 50 shillings. That's 15,000 shillings. They'll anticipate that. At the point in time that will affect some of these requirements of taxing farmers with the e-teams, we'll expect at the very least that this guy will be earning 15,000 from the milk. And as such, 16% of that should be at least 1,300, 1,400, and so on and so forth. At the point in time, his avocados go around and start fruiting. Each and every tree will give X amount. So they place that as estimates. Like, they've gone very aggressive on even trying to actually understand how to move on through. And I'm talking about a farm in the village in Busia, not in Busia town, like deep in the village. So trust me, they've got enough enforcement officers whose only work is to go around and collect the data and also follow through on the payment. So they become very aggressive, very aggressive.
And like, so these guys in Balti, the people who know are the ones who receive letters because, and I think like Indefatigable is saying over there, Ash has been paying taxes since 2018.
Yeah.
But over there, guys, what's happening is you get a letter and you're given 7 days to respond, to come to the office to sort out these manenos. And then you're told your tax bill or whatever because they count. So it's like they backdate.
They go backwards, yes.
They go backwards from when
Correct.
they can say, so from 2019 to 2022 or 2023, and you've got 5 career, so you're liable to pay tax of, let's say, 300,000 Kenya shillings.
So it's up to you to now come back and prove them wrong.
And
Yes.
prove them wrong.
Yeah.
The
Now,
burden of
that is-
proof is on you.
Yes.
Okay.
Na
Now,
ukicheza,
Ngoja nikupe siri. Walipe
unapaswa to know
tu.
somebody. Yeah, ulipe tu. So that's what I'm saying. So like, so what's happening is those are the people who know
who are in the know.
who are in the know. There are people who just don't know that you need to have a pin.
Now here's my question here
Yeah.
when we talk about PIN numbers, because
Yes.
now there's a couple of things that have been mentioned. PIN,
Yes.
e-teams, and a lot of people in diaspora,
Yeah.
we sitting here may know what those are.
Yes.
But I think I want
So,
Hila to talk about
yeah,
those
yeah,
because
yeah.
a lot of people do not understand what these things are. And Hila, on your kit, your e-teams na PIN, first of all, we want to know, is filing taxes a requirement for all Kenyans, including those who live abroad and have never worked in Kenya, do not own any property in Kenya? Is it a legal requirement for everyone to file taxes? Meaning even kids who are born here, but now with dual citizenship, they have a Kenyan passport. Are all these people required to file for taxes? Hila.
So the answer is in the affirmative. One of the key things is once you already obtain a national ID, even if you're in university, you're required to get a PIN because it's a one document that will even enable you to open an account when in college, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Now, if you are not employed and you don't have any business, at the time of filing, you should be able to go around and file in nil returns. If you do not file by the 30th of June each and every single year, there'll be a fine. I think the number is a ballpark number of about 15,000 because they say, I mean, if you really don't have any income, why would you want to avoid filing in the first place? Just file and say that there was zero. If you do not file, then the assumption is that you're trying to evade the system. And you could actually be out of the country for about 3 or 4 years. But the moment you come back in and they ask you to go around and you're looking at opening a bank account, remember, you've been there for 5 years. So there's been 15,000 accruing interest.
75.
Multiply that by 5. That's 75,000 plus interest. It'll probably be about 110,000. You'll open your account. The moment your account is open, because they'll have actually placed some of those particular pins on a watch list, the moment you do your first transaction into that account, they will lock it. Then they'll tell you, please come and visit us to one of our carrier offices. We have a discussion. So they'll ask you, so you've been there for 5 years. You've now deposited 200,000 shillings. You can't access it. Let us understand what happened. So at that time, you could negotiate. You could genuinely have not been in the country. You're paying tax in a different place. They'll ask you to go around and confirm onto that, and then you can negotiate on what the penalty will be. But the bottom line of the point I'm trying to make is that you need to file every 30th of June.
Yes. By the 30th of June.
By the 30th of
Yes.
You
June.
file nil.
So this
Yes.
this includes kids who are born
No,
in
no,
the
no,
US.
no, no. If you're 18 and over.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yes,
I'm
yes,
saying kids who
yes.
are born in the US
And you have dual
who are
citizenship.
18 and
Yes.
over
Yes.
have
Yes.
dual citizenship.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so I think this is very critical because a lot of people, 90% of the people who've been living here for 20, 25 years, they don't know. So you've not been filing taxes. So I think the moment they get a hold of you is multiplying whatever they think you owe or those penalties, they multiply them by 20 or by 25. So let's say like if you owe, let's say they estimate that your penalties are, I don't know how much, let's say like 10,000 shillings every year. Multiply that by 25, that is 250,000 shillings.
Yes.
But
And
you
yes, Mika.
know, the good thing about it is that they're really, the one thing is they work with diaspora people. And that is, I will tell people in the diaspora, don't be scared to file nil, especially if you have ambition to do 3 things. You have ambition to buy land, you have ambition to get a business, like start a business the way we want to open an Airbnb or any other business, or you have ambition, you want to go back home and you want to ship stuff, like you want to ship like a container, the way that container they give you for free that's tax free, or you want to bring in a car. If you want to do those things, just keep filing nil, because it's going to help you at the end of the day.
Okay,
Now,
I'm going to read a couple of comments. Wanjeri is saying, I've been paying taxes in Kenya since 2018 because the drama is real. Those guys look at who filed for the electricity and water meters, very easy to trace back. Tabitha Njeri is saying, whoa, she's surprised. Tabitha, have you filed your taxes?
Where, Bana, why are you picking on Tabitha, Bana?
Now, I hope KRA is not tuned in, because shortly you'll see KRA joined.
But there are very many Tabitha Njeris.
Shortly you'll see KRA joined. And then Udi says, nice point, Ali, you need to file returns. Udi says, we got exemption as long as you file the nil returns from 2015. Why is the 2015 year
That's
important?
when I think they started.
Okay.
That's what they implemented.
They implemented
Yeah.
the career. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And then let me see. Afro-Jamaican is saying only if they have a PIN.
Sani sistuki hapa amesema.
Yeah. And then Afro-Jamaican.
Sunny's records are going to be
Afro-Jamaican is saying
fined.
the nil return takes less than 5 minutes. Washake is saying KRA is watching, and Sistuki alikuwa anasema hapa Omosh amepatikana, memtoa Atlanta.
Now let me read something that was
this
shared
guy.
in a
He
different
needs to
group,
see me
and
live
this
at
from an
10.
accountant in Kenya, and I think Komosh is part of that group. The guy said it is important for those who have or intend to own any property, start a business, get married, or plan to settle in Kenya to have a PIN and align your taxes as per current tax laws. Your properties will not be seized, irrespective of when you acquired it, but align with both countries' tax authorities, IRS and KRA, especially IRS. I say IRS because they are more lethal and difficult to cut corners. As for KRA, you can clean up and, in quotes, organize your tax history. Wink, wink. In other news, IRS has now set up a desk with CBK to require banks to give them information on US citizens with accounts in Kenya. They have collected all your data that you use to send money here, Wave, Zelle, ETC, whatever. This has been necessitated by the increase of fraud cases by our brothers in West Africa. This is being done across Africa. FATCA, F-A-T-K-A, in action. So if you can, just please get a PIN, clean up your tax history, and remember to file year on year. That is from a tax expert in a...
And then, you know, the thing is this, the IRS usually doesn't even really follow. I'll tell you somebody who does business in both countries. The IRS doesn't really follow you so much, especially if you're not moving money back from the States to here. So the IRS will never look into that much unless you're making a major income that you're bringing in. So, and it protects you also in the fact that moving money is one of the most dangerous things you can do in this country. And I can be your relative back home and I ask you for money, unitumie, unani support. And maybe I'm radicalized by some groups out there. And if you don't have a money trail that shows you're supporting that person, you're just sending money, you can easily be gotten with charges of funding a terrorist organization. So that paper trail is also safe for you.
Mika, why are you scaring us, Bana? You know, I'm just
saying something to consider. Like,
we were doing things in a good way, Bwana.
Something to consider when you're doing this. So it's not a bad thing. Filing nil, all I'm saying is I'm encouraging people. File the nil returns. File the nil returns. Have a paper trail. Like, make it easy that when you never know who you're dealing with.
So
or who you're working with, like, just protect yourself in any way you can.
So going back to Hila, what's gonna happen to me, like, if I haven't filed for since 2015? What happens to me if I go to KRA and tell them, okay, I want to collect this?
The best thing you would do, because you already know what the issue is you basically go to the office and preempt it and tell them I've been away, I have not been domiciled in Kenya.
Yeah.
I have been earning revenue and paying taxes in the foreign country. They would not request you're required to do the double taxation.
Okay.
You will just have to go around and update your record. But because the filing system can only be done in a year-by-year front, you'll definitely have to go and work around with them. They may decide, pegged up on the story or the version that you give them, to either do a waiver or just give you a small fine, depending on what you told them.
And what is a
If you
small
then tell
fine?
us,
They usually charge you an administration fee for just
Yes.
doing it if you're backing it up.
Yes.
What is a small fine, Hila? What are we talking about? What's a small fine? How much is it?
They could actually decide to just ex gratia give you the penalty for 1 year and then have that expunged from the record. That I know is what most of the guys who couldn't get out of it would get. At least if you did 5 or 6 years, they'll just say fine, because you had also vanished. It's first and foremost good that you actually came by. So they could, I mean, it's a decision that they'll go around and make, pegged upon the balance of what you're telling them.
But Hila, right now there's a tax amnesty up to June 30th, and they're encouraging folks who have not been filing or who had not filed to come out of the woodworks, file nil, and basically go through this process.
Amnesties are not necessarily grounded in practice. It's basically meant to be out of the goodwill of your heart. But if you're to go around and follow the rules in a very strict way,
Correct.
a fine should be forthcoming. And amnesty just says, okay, you guys have been naughty fellows. We want to give you a chance to get back onto the mainstream. So we'll just give you this chance, this window. Then if you do not utilize it, then we'll come out for you.
Correct. So what I'm trying to say is that they are actually saying they have an amnesty in relation to all those izovituza zile yakale. So come out now and do it. And as you said, once the 30th hits, then all bets are off.
Kabisa, jitume mapema. Send yourself early.
So mtu kama One Mike ambaye akona property kama sita hivi na amekuwa kidoja say for the last 16 years akijitoa sahi na wanamgoja pale amengedhia, si hapo sasa ni kujipeleka
Sasa wewe sure.
Now on properties,
unasema tu uko unajua.
Properties now even get a bit more murky because say for example you have a parcel of land in Kwale and another parcel of land in Nyeri. What you then require to do on top of trying to sort out your KRA issues is to go to those respective counties and confirm that you are not on a defaulters list, because eventually after a period of time when you've not gone around and paid your rates
land,
and
your
land rates are land rent.
Precisely.
Okay.
Now land rates get even more dicier.
Correct.
Because they can decide to deregister your lease and reallocate your land to someone else.
Wow.
So that one.
So One Mike's property can go to Humphrey instead of them staying with One Mike.
If you do not pay your rates past a certain period in time, then they actually wonder, should we really keep this person, particularly if it's in a commercially viable area?
Yes.
Why are we keeping this guy? Because the counties are all also about generating revenue. Every state agency at this point in time in Kenya is all about generating revenue for sustainability and survival.
Okay. All right. Now, here's my other question. A couple of comments here I want to read, but before I read the questions, you mentioned something called e-teams, which is something that we hear constantly in the media. What exactly is e-teams?
E-teams simply talks to us an electronic tax management system. It's basically, so think about a PDQ machine. So what they're trying to do is that they notice that there's a lot of activity happening within the informal sector. In agriculture, your typical sort of nyamachoma stalls that you'll get at Kenyatta Market, your typical estate hair salon. So they're saying for some of these people are then indulging in own private ventures, whether they're medium, small, or micro. They will be required to go around and register their businesses and get an electronic tax register. So simply put, on Asema, if Omosh is going to make his hair and it's going to cost him 1,000 shillings, as soon as it's done, the person who is salonist will charge him 1,000 shillings. But then at that point in time, acknowledge that she received the money. It will be 16% VAT, and by the 20th of every month, be required to submit the 16% that she has collected on behalf of our great nation of Kenya to the Kenya Revenue Authority. All they're trying to do is to expand the tax bracket, because previously it was only fellows who were salaried who would get into that. So they're trying to cast the net out wide. The one that is a bit controversial is when they tried to roll out that e-team solution to farmers, because farmers came around and said, so you expect me to go around and collect 10 bags of potatoes. I'll tell you a bag of potatoes is about 4,000 shillings. Multiplied by 10, that is 40,000 shillings. You expect me 16% of this by the time I'm leaving the farm, yet I'm not getting any subsidy on fertilizer. I'm not getting any subsidy on any farm input. I'm not getting any waiver on the labor costs that I'm actually placing in, etc. So the question then would be, why would you come around and harm us? Is there an inflection point where we say below a certain threshold of farming, which would be considered subsidiary farming, will not go around and touch? So it's all up in there. So all they're trying to do is to expand the net and allow you to go around and self-evaluate yourself. If they then come to your business and realize you're generating financial activity and you've not done it, another fine will come through. So you just go and get the machine.
So the e-teams is so basically what you're saying is that e-teams is mandatory. However, if let's say I went and I got the machine and I'm registered, lakini watu wananlipa a different way, then those sales don't register.
You must have systems to show that if you said in your kinyozi you collected 20,000, that you either have the M-Pesa to go around and support onto that, and you logged in the right detail. Because of course, I mean, there are very many businesses, but you never know, and I'm not trying to be biblical, no one knows the day is coming. So these guys don't know the day they're coming. If they basically go around and get one thing that is off from what you're doing on your self-declaration, then it becomes an inquest. So it's about just having the right processes, whether it is actually cash or whatever the case would be, to ensure that as soon as the service has been issued, you issue them a receipt. Now here's where it becomes a bit interesting. You may probably not think that they'll come in disguised as customers, because they could actually come in disguised themselves as customers, get a haircut, and after that, after they've paid, they'll wait and see if you're giving them something. And the moment you don't give them, they tell you, not from Courier. Now let us understand.
Wow.
So how do you conduct your business?
Yes.
Wapi risiti?
Okay.
And it so happened, again, Bolti, speaking from experience, Babahanya. The mother.
This Babahanya guy.
No, that one we are sorting. Mother has got an avocado, whatever. You know how she's got so many avocados. So if somebody comes and buys, it's sort of a requirement to provide a receipt.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of what it is.
It is a requirement.
Correct.
That is where the e-teams is. So if you're doing business to business, and I want to, like if I want to get a receipt so that I can claim, like how if you're doing business, you get you do business or whatever, you get a receipt so that you can claim. It's more or less the same thing.
Yes.
If you're having a business. Now, Mama Mboga, there's a requirement for even Mama
to
Mboga.
produce a receipt.
Yeah,
Yes.
to produce.
Yes.
So Ali, mimi ni Mama Mboga. I'm over there. You come. You're coming so you can get maybe 1 or 2 sticks of kunde or whatever.
Yeah.
Unaenda kupika hapo kwa hotel yako. I'm like, boss, I need a receipt. You'll tell me I need a receipt. So I have to give you a receipt. And I have to confirm with the pin. Okay, this is Ali Badawi's Mujuku's Cafe.
Yeah.
And then you got from one Mike's store. That's it. But you have to.
Okay.
Business wise.
All right.
My friend.
All right.
And then now this means it's paper, and there's also a tax for paper now called Sijui Nani.
You have to listen
Which
because
Okay, so let me go through some comments here, because man, these have been coming thick and fast. Anthony Njoroge is asking, I have a rental apartment. You will be paying taxes from income earned. And we're going to be talking about rentals later on, so stay tuned up, Wanto. And then Onyango says, I think the FATCA reporting requirement is triggered by the amount of money you hold in foreign accounts. I believe it was $50,000 US the last time I checked, a few months ago. And then Benny Diongo, I think it's less than 50,000. I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but let's just check that FATCA requirement of amount of money that you're holding in an account abroad, because there was a time when NCBA sent me something which I thought that they had not seen, but they did send me something. And then Benny Diongo says, do you have to go in person? We have less than a month to handle this year's tax. Otherwise, it's past due. It's not less than a month. It is 2 weeks. It is
Well, because Benny is counting Cape Fear, it's a week.
He's counting Cape Fear. Now, then that's 1 week.
Yes, so for Benny, he's counting Cape Fear. So between now and Cape Fear, hapo haezi fanya anything.
And then Anthony Njoroge says, I have never filed taxes over 10 years ago. Just hope that Courier is not watching.
Did he say that loud? Na ndio mwenye nyumba?
He said that loudly.
Ndio mwenye nyumba,
I hope Courier is not tuned in, because they will be contacting you.
I think he needs to come to our School of Finance.
And then Udi says, I got amnesty for 1 year. You need to settle it before government messes you on July 1st. And then Washeke says, for FATCA reporting requirements, It's 50,000 at the end of the year, or 75,000 for single filers. 100,000 at the end of, at any point during the year for married filers. I think this is something that people need to go, we need to look in detail, those FATCA requirements. And then Udia nasema eTeams is a have to use for diaspora. It's a file that you need to download, and it's hard for someone to fill out. Afro-Jamaican says use Odo as a POS. It's free. I don't know what Odo is. Afro-Jamaican, please give us some details. And then Luis Muya.
It's a CRM or a way you can actually manage your business.
Oh, okay, a CRM. Okay, yeah. All right. And then Tabitha Njeri here is saying, this is all mind-blowing. The guest is very informative too. By the way, he's from the Congress of Highly Advanced National Entertainment Zone, aka Changes. But anyway, that's a story for another day. I want to remind the listeners that you tuned into the One Mic Show. I'm your co-host Ali Badawi, and our guest tonight is Hilary Itela from the Lenana School. He's the board chair of the Courier Industry Association of Kenya, CIAK. Now, Itela is also a former director of the Kenya Rugby Union, so keep it locked because we'll be talking about the current state of Kenya Rugby, with Shujaa being promoted back to the World Series. We'll shortly be asking if it's worth investing in Kenya with all these new taxes. Now, this is talking about Diasporans. But before we continue, Mike, there's something big happening in Wilmington, North Carolina on the weekend of June 21st to 23rd. And also reminding the listeners, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. I know there's a couple of people who are going to be going to North Carolina next weekend who want to call. The number again, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. But Mike, tell us for a minute what's going to be happening in NC.
So we're going to be having a tournament called Cape Fear that has been going on for about 50 years. I didn't even know that myself. I'm shocked.
50 years, yeah.
Apparently. But I'll even do you one better. I am trying to get the organizer on the line.
Okay.
He'll tell us more.
202-683-4570.
Yes.
How do you take disrespect like that?
Disrespect? Relax.
Unakubaliaje wana Mike?
It's okay, boss.
This is a sidebar conversation. It sounds like a sidebar conversation.
Kwa nini?
Ni mambo ya sijui.
This sidebar conversation.
Yeah.
Umesikia bwana amepumiliwa hapo Lenana.
Yani Mika amekuja na ubaya.
I mean, see the colors. He's even dressed in maroon. Hii hapa unaona na hii ni Tabitha amesema.
Mika.
There were no brown envelopes.
It's okay.
There was no solicitation.
Tuko na guest hapa, so hatutaki kufanya madhogodhanio, so I have to,
ingekuwa mimi
well najua unge nini you not have so we're benefiting. So anyway, Cape Fear next week has been going on, will be going on. We have players coming in, people like Akina Marine will be playing, guys Akina Henda.
Marine ule mmoja.
Shiomwe.
He's not going to be wearing
Former
a thing on his head.
So how many Kenyan teams? How many Kenyan teams?
So there are two. There's the main guy.
Yeah.
There's an A and a B. The B is now for the wazers, the guys who used to
play. Or the legends.
The legends. Akina Marine, Ahenda, Mika, Waliovuma.
Yeah.
Lakini sasa ni ile sasa ni wasasa ile akina Mika is gonna play, by the way.
Women promise a good 2 minutes on the wing.
Wagura, even Benny himself.
Wagura, the Lenana School.
Is Misha?
Yeah.
Misha will be playing. Saints guy. Maybe this is something. Ama ulikuwa Strath, sorry. So Dennis Wesonga.
Is it double?
I don't know if Izidabo is playing, but the other guys even there.
Okay.
Akina Leslie probably will be there. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But we'll just find guys over there.
Okay.
But
And will there be like any sherehe happening?
Oh, there'll be sherehe with the one and only Sunny Sistuki and DJ Shinsky.
Okay.
You mean double S?
Those ones.
Okay. And that's gonna be next week.
Mr. Good Vibes.
From Friday, June 21st. Actually from Thursday.
So Thursday ni Karibu Night.
Unakuja ukiingia.
Unakuja. Friday Sato, and then games Hanyebees, games, Hanyebees, and then final Sunday, then guys can go to the beach and there's going to be after party.
Okay,
Yes.
I pin the details, you
Yes.
know, for those who want to
Get
get
in
tickets.
there.
The games are free. No kuruka fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Benithiongo, prepare yourself because when we delve into Cape Fear and rugby and KRA and Shuja, oh sorry, did I say KRA? I'm traumatized. Cape Fear
KRU.
and KRU and
Yeah.
whatever, you're gonna jitayarisha, please.
Yeah, the number is 202-683-4570.
Press star 5 to
Press
speak.
star 5 to
But
speak.
be on standby.
Yes, and you can also call, you know, like to contribute on this conversation about
Yes,
taxes
yeah.
that we're having
Yes.
with
Benny
Hila.
doesn't pay taxes.
Yes.
Oh, and I think I don't know. His hand is up, so I don't know whether we should take him. Or we
You
should
can
no,
not.
take
no,
you-
I think
You can take the call.
Let's
I
take
mean,
the call. Let's
but,
take the call. If it's called, let's take the call.
Yeah, I think Uno should tell us, you know, based upon what Uno found out the last time. I think kama wewe ni clever, you carry a tent and you go with a chair
Yes.
and have water.
Okay, all right.
Yes, so-
That's good information.
So, uno momento, Skype over here. Let me.
Benny Watrata.
Okay. I mean, if it's
Hold on.
Okay.
Did you see? Can you dial a friend, call a number?
yeah, and while we're
There he
waiting,
goes. Hey,
okay, all right, go ahead.
Benny.
Thank you for calling the One Mic Show. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from,
And your social security number.
and your KRA pin. Okay, all right.
think-
I think
Is
he
he silent?
No, maybe he's
we
on
scared
mute.
him.
No, I think tumemwingiza baridi when you mentioned social security number and KRA pin. Akatuliza bola. Yeah.
Umemshika before ingie.
Yeah. Okay. And then Udia natuambia, can you guys shout out my girl on that day? She will have her Kenyan jersey on. So tell us, tag her. Tag who your girl is.
His girl. Okay.
But we don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Tag who your girl is, Udi, so that we know who it is, and we'll shout out. Akinyadoyo karibu sana. Now, when I go back to the tax conversation, of course, we're gonna come back to rugby later. And this I wanna now come, you know, like to Hila and also back to the panel. What are maybe some areas that diasporans are investing in Kenya generally that have tax implications? Hila, I'm gonna start with you because you're in Kenya and you're seeing where diasporans are coming and throwing their money. Which sectors are you seeing diasporans investing in? Hila.
All right. So the remittance from diaspora, if you look at the most recent data by the National Bureau of Statistics, says that close to about 500,000 Kenyans in diaspora remit up to 667 billion annually. 667 billion Kenyan shillings.
Wow.
To place that into context, the most recent budget that was read yesterday projects that we should be utilizing 4 trillion. So 667 billion was to be placed as a percentage of the 4 trillion, that's 17%. So 17% is almost close to a fifth of what the country's current expenditure or projected expenditure is. So it's not a small pittance when you're looking at what the remittances back home are. Now, the issues that have, popped up within the last 12, 18 months. Previously, agriculture was an area where there'd be a lot of focus, but the input costs, the cost of a liter of fuel, just being able to get your produce from the farm to the formal markets has made it a very tough venture. And I know people who, have decided for one reason or the other to keep away from agriculture because it'll be an issue of fertilizer. You don't get the correct fertilizer, you get fake fertilizer, you will not get any subsidies on that. You will be hit on a fuel perspective, etc., etc. And I mean, the list is endless. If you're in animal husbandry, the cost of feeds has more than tripled within the last 3 years. So agriculture has become a very dicey bit. Unless you have the ability to produce your own feeds for your animals, or you've got some ingenuity on utilizing organic manure, it may not necessarily be something that is worthwhile. But there's still those who believe and take a leap of faith. So that is an area, because at the end of the day, you'll still require to get people to be fed, but there are various challenges. Now, tourism within the last 2 years post-COVID has actually had a very, very tremendous growth of about 28-29%. And whereas maybe 10 years ago, everyone would be looking at living in hotels and resorts, people are now looking at getting into Airbnbs and, opportunities to perhaps be able to go around and get in a flat in a place like Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, and even Nairobi would be able to go around and at least allow you to have something that will increase in its value and also be able to generate a bit of revenue. So at this point in time, if you're to go around and look at some place where you can, try and see something that you can do without necessarily having a risk, of course, taxation will still get you everywhere. I would say real estate, particularly focusing on short-term stays within the various tourist hubs around in Kenya, would definitely be a bet to move on through. Business, the business environment at home is tough. So, if you actually have, the nail, and I say this with a lot of respect, if you do not actually have the ability to snuggle it all through, you'll be heartbroken very quickly.
What do you mean by snuggle it all through? As in, like, stay for the long term?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's quite interesting. I mean, this is mind blowing. But I think, Mike, you said we have a caller.
Let's see
Yeah.
if it's going to work this time. Thank you for calling the One Mic Show.
Welcome to the One Mic Show.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Benny. I'm calling from Atlanta.
Benny, karibu sana
Tengeneza
to the
simu
One
bwana.
Mic Show. You've been following the conversation. First of all, before tuingie kwa story ya Cape Fear Sevens, rugby na nini, just give us a brief 1 or 2 minutes of what you've been listening to and what you think about what Hilary is saying. Benny.
Well, it's eye-opening what the carriers decided to do to us, especially people in the diaspora who have to start doing double taxation if they don't follow the rules properly. But on the other hand, I see where KRA is doing, or what we're trying to do is we're trying to generate income to pay some of our debts.
Okay, all right.
That's not it.
Okay, I saw interesting point, generating income to pay debt, but also the debt is also where we are trying to pay the debt, but we're also adding more debt to our portfolio. But anyway, Benny, now talk to us about what's going to be happening next week from June the 21st to June the 23rd. Benny.
So, I'm Benny. I'm the one that kind of runs the background stuff of Kenya Exiles Rugby Sevens. And our team has been featured at Cape Fear since the 90s. But in the last few years, we kind of died out in the 2000s, somewhere in between there. And then we tried to revive it about 2018. No, when did Andy pass away? A year before he passed away. So we revived it at that time to see if we can get people to start coming back. And that's when we started bringing in. The first year we had like maybe about 20 people showed up, and now you can see we've been able to attract enough people to show up to the point that Sistuki and Shinsky have given us their time to come out and entertain us at night. And then also, but we can't forget Yahoo Edits has been entertaining us the last 5 years. So he's been doing a great job on the kwa uwanja na penye tutaenda tutakula happy too.
Okay.
So do you guys have a grill? Do you guys have a grill master? Because I think that's what I'm interested in. Your rugby.
Yes, actually we do this year. We Golden Course or the CPR cuisine.
Ule jama mmoja ule.
The ones that used to
Georgie.
Ule jama mmoja yeye ndo walikuwa na throw bashes tukienda Vegas.
Yes.
And then now when we went to LA Sevens, they started cooking for us. So they're bringing us their cuisine,
wow.
which is
Okay.
ugali, sukuma wiki,
Okay.
nyama choma.
Okay.
And so the only ones. It wasn't open for anybody to apply, but you had to get a license. So they're the only ones that waliitikia kufanya homework. So they'll be the ones giving us the food hapo sato kwa uwanja.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Aya, sawa. Now, any plans, Benny, before we let you go, any plans, like after Cape Fear Sevens, any other upcoming tournaments? Amasa, from there, it's just cheering, you know, like our men and women's team that are, the men's team is going to the Olympics. I think the women's team might be going for a repechage tournament.
Yes, they are.
To try and qualify for the Olympics. Is there any other thing that people need to pay attention to the 2024 rugby calendar?
The 2024 rugby calendar, not at the moment.
Okay.
And from the Kenya Exile side, we are self-funded, so we try to hold on to every dollar we have, so we can't really go to all the places we want to compete here in the U.S.
Okay.
So we try our best just to hold on. But what we do is we support all the young rugby players that are competing in different teams around the country. So the club rugby sevens national championship this year will be Wisconsin, August the 10th weekend. So depending on which team makes it, there might be 1 or 2 or 3 Kenyans that will be playing for different teams. So we usually go and support those guys during that time.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
So these are local American teams that Kenyans are playing for.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So we have been lucky enough that a lot of people who played rugby in Kenya, they come here and they connect with the rugby community, and they're able to play club rugby. Unajua ni kama kucheza na Mean Machine,
Yeah.
McQueen Cakes, you know, things like that.
Okay.
Wow. And you know, this is a guy of knacks. That's why you see him talking like this. Huh?
Okay. All right. I see the knacks
Harlequins.
coming out.
Queens, Harlequins.
Benny.
Anyway, so some of those guys, and you know, we even lucky enough that one of our Kenyan players who came through via Sudan, Monate, is actually playing for the Seattle Seawolves, which is a professional rugby league here in the U.S. So he has games every weekend, most of his weekends this month and sometime, and I think beginning of next month, because they just qualified for the playoffs.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
anybody can get on, and anybody can watch all his games for free on the what's the name? The Rugby
Pass TV.
Rugby Pass TV.
No, not at the Rugby Pass. The Rugby. There's another one, the Rugby Network or something like that.
Rugby
I gotta
Network.
remember.
Oh,
what it's
Major
called.
League Rugby.
And it's online.
Yes.
Okay.
The Rugby Network is online. It's free to anybody, anywhere in the world. So they
Okay.
can watch it for free on the Rugby Network.
All right, Benia Asante Sana. We will be seeing you in North Carolina at Cape Fear Sevens, and I have pinned the details in the comment section for those who want to get the tickets for Moenjoyo, and for those who are going to watch the games.
Is there
no jumping fences?
is there a
free.
press pass for one mic, since he needs to enter the party to report?
Wow.
Anyway, that's a Nyuma 10th conversation.
Si nilikuwa tu nauliza tu na uzuri, yani kusema kweli.
No,
I'm trying to help one mic.
Benny is organizing the field activities. Sani Sistuki is doing the after career. That's the
So
person we need
are
to
you
talk
saying
to.
that I should pause a comment to Sunny over here to ask him if you can go in to interview him, thus you would use your press passiosity?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Benny Gade. Thank you, Gade.
So we
No, go ahead.
Thank you,
Finish
guys,
up.
for having me.
Let's
Thank
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the organizing we do we've organized everything. Sistuki was somebody I invited to come help us out because we could not get the help we needed in Wilmington, and he's been very graceful and very humble to say, "Yeah, I'll take care of that for you. Don't worry about it." And you know, Kasabu,
Is a good
one of the things you learn is you have to delegate everything. You can't do everything by yourself. So there's several people who've been doing things in the background, and as we'll see next weekend, there'll be a lot of things that are different from last year that will be a little bit more fruitful.
So, and before Benny goes, I planted this seed about reaching out and hitting up Sistuki last Cape Fear.
Or after ulienda uka ulienda huko ukakula njeve.
Kulanjeve wapi? There was nothing that was going on. So
That's
I just
what
told
I
him
meant.
reach out to
That's
Sistuki,
what I meant.
organize something, and voila, here we are.
So if one is to come at this point, where would you advise somebody to to go stay, blah blah, mtu ambaye anakuja kutoka Kansas?
Bas. Hiyo ni swali poa sana. So Marriott reached out to Kenya Exiles. So Fairfield Inn and Suites in on not too far from the field, not too far from downtown, and not too. It's like 10 minutes to either direction. It's like in the middle of everything. So Fairfield Inn and Suites has given us a group rate. I will share the link if you guys want. I'll share the link so anybody can go in there and you can book a room. I think for $164 for multiple days. But if you book on just for a single day, in a Rudy market rate. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But other than that, if you book from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, utoke huko Monday, you get the group rate at $164 a night.
Okay. So post
for
kwa
1 year.
comments.
So we've been talking taxes plus taxes.
Plus taxes. Good one. Benny, please post it kwa comments. Please post it kwa comments up on Facebook so that people can see it. And asante sana for your time.
Yeah, watu kama one mic who want to interview people in the hotel room, what do they do?
Ben, you see the type of shit I deal with?
Okay, so Benny, asante sana. We will connect with you again.
Thank you, Benny. Benny, by the way, Benny was instrumental for networking, for having me network with guys in Atlanta, including Waseo Chams Media, by the way. And
okay.
I even got to meet Benny. Where was that guy, the reporter?
We're knowing that now.
You went to
knowing
school
that
with.
now.
Was there a guy from the guy you went to Shule with? The reporter guy.
Oh, he works for Nation Media.
Yep, I actually got to meet a lot of people because of Benny.
Okay.
In Atlanta.
And
So
we're knowing that now.
Niliwaambia report itatoka tu polepole leo.
Okay.
Thank you, Benny, for
including Omanyala. I met Omanyala because of the very same Benny guy.
unasikia?
Okay.
Unasikia?
All right.
Sawa. Benny, asante sana kadhe.
Okay.
Yeah,
asante
And
sana.
Benny also
Aya,
takes
asante
pictures
sana
and took
for
very
having
nice
me.
pictures
Aya.
of us with
Okay.
Omanyala.
Polepole tu the next confession itakuwa kiconfess ile envelope alipewa na Ruto.
Anyway, let's continue. But quickly before we continue, one hack I want to give to people who want to promote the events during rugby. Because like with the show that
Are you about to get in trouble?
with the show that we did last week, of course we always get in trouble because we point these things out.
Yes.
We point these things out. I think people need to look at the templates that Sistuki and Shinsky are using. You need to be familiar with the rugby community. You need to be familiar with the game. You can't just be coming and posting when the Kenya team has shown up. So when you do this, you see now like in these smaller events like Cape Fear Sevens, whereby Sistuki and Shinsky, they're very busy people. Maybe they might not even make I don't know the dynamics. Maybe they might not even make money out of this whole thing, but they're looking at the bigger picture. They're looking at the bigger picture, and I think when you start having that relationship with the rugby community, then it's easier, to come and say, okay, Rugby Sevens is coming. You help promote the study, and you have people, you have the rugby people also come to your event.
Yeah.
So it's a quid pro quo. Of course, anyone is free to come to the events and post up whatever they have, but I think it's important to also at least pretend that you care about the game at the bare minimum. I'm saying, rugby is a very enjoyable game. If you learn it, you'll enjoy it.
It is actually.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Ali, sorry to interrupt you, is that there may still be room for one to go vend, because just like we found out that CPR is doing food, there may be someone else who's doing something else. Maybe you're selling Kiswahili books. Maybe you're doing something, and your audience is there. Kenyans are going to be there. This would be a good space for you if you're somebody who has something that you sell, jewelry, blah, blah, blah. Go vend.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to Hila. We were talking about areas where Kenyans are invested in, and I think Hila mentioned areas like farming, which is becoming dicey, real estate. Which other areas do you guys think Kenyans are invested in Kenya outside the traditional real estate?
I was specialty hospitals.
if you'd be looking at an area to place in opportunity, which is definitely gaining a lot of ground. Now I'll talk about maybe if people have a huge appetite for mega infrastructure projects, energy generation. So there's already a very critical amount of wind power that Kenya is exporting into southern bit of Ethiopia and Sudan. But I met up a couple of guys also keen on trying to consolidate what they've had, they've built up in the US for a while. They have a very interesting energy project they're trying to place up, splitting hydrogen, which apparently produces a lot more energy than hydro. But of course, there'll be a couple of hoops. We'll need to be able to speak with the relevant fellows. So the country is definitely still hungry for mega projects. So if you are working with a conglomerate or high net worth individuals who are looking at placing some infrastructure projects, particularly trying to target the health segment for transformative growth, and there's a level of reception that you can go around and get with foreign partners and energy, but that talks towards the big pushing ones. But at this point in time, if you're to rate it, I would look at trying to tap in on short stay options across the traditional tourism sides. I would not necessarily discourage anyone from business, but like I already said, that it just needs you to have some systems that will allow you to be able to move on through, because in as much as there's been all this taxation, the positive story that not so many people are talking about is that we had a 5.7% growth in the last year. Right after the election, it was only at 4%, it's gone to 5.7%. And the projections are, things are going on through. So despite the fact that there's a very aggressive collection of taxes and people are feeling the pinch, there are still opportunities on a business perspective. Become niche. There's definitely a lot of potential to be able to go around and get curious in. I mean, I've been in Atlanta for about a week, and I'd like to agree with Omosh. Benny has actually also taken me up and about. So there's a lot of activity. I met a lady who's doing leather bags, manufacturing them in Nairobi.
Yes.
And importing them into the US.
Eva.
I think I know.
And the bags are not going in for anything less than about $200.
So there is very high quality bags.
Very high quality bags.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is opportunity. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that you could go around and sell the items in Kenya, but what she's doing is something that is, I think, really transformational. She has actually set up a manufacturing site, but her target market is in the US. So there are opportunities to go around and try and also empower the people back home while also tapping into your market in Kenya here. So in the US here.
So Hila, for something like that, would if one were to try to go through and do the same sort of thing, where would the Chamber of Commerce come in? Because you came in on an American Chamber of Commerce initiative. Does that mean that you then liaised with the Kenya Chamber of Commerce, or was it the Nairobi Chamber of Commerce, or the International Chamber of Commerce?
So very, very, very great question. There's normally a trade attaché at each and every consul mission across the world. And the American Chamber of Commerce is basically an organization that has a dotted line to the American Embassy that looks at opportunities that can be tapped into. The one disappointing thing that I picked up in the time that I was around, it would appear that it was a bulk of the Kenyans who traveled from Nairobi to the US who had the chance to mint the opportunities and get a chance to understand where to plug in. But I got the feeling that the diaspora, the diasporans in the US didn't get a chance to go around and talk. Now, you guys have been in the US for a while. There's been something that has been in existence for over a decade, the African Growth and Opportunities Act, AGOA.
Yeah,
Correct.
What the United States basically says that they don't have the ability, or they do not believe that they'd be able to go around and get some of these particular products sold into the US because the cost of labor is quite expensive. So if you're already in the US, you received a level of grounding. The first point to be able to look at a business that you can still go around and offload some of those products in the US would be the African Growth and Opportunities Act. And then in some instances, leather products are a big deal in this country. And AGOA provides African businesses the chance to be able to go around and get that into this part. There are also, I think, some select skins, I think snake hide, alligator hide, etc. If you want to go around and link up with guys at Mamba Village and tell them Kichinja, Mamba, mimi nitabeba ngozi nilete hapa. But there's opportunity.
Yeah.
But it would just be a matter of being able to understand what sort of trade arrangements are already there, because if you're looking at then having that business, tapped into the US market because you already got grounding, you already have the contacts, there are opportunities on that front. But that would require you to maybe look at what sort of concessions countries like Kenya have, where your target market would be, such that you then have the ability to create a manufacturing site. It doesn't have to be big and etc., but you then get the items into the US and you now manage your business in the US, but the products are made in Kenya. That actually has an effect of being able to also improve the lots of people, because unemployment remains a big issue in Kenya, while also tapping into your networks in the US.
So, Hilary, are you saying that those sorts of initiatives are where you would run to the Chamber of Commerce, the local
That is correct.
Chamber of Commerce?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. I have the contacts. If anyone is interested, I have the number of the CEO of the American Chamber of Commerce. I have the number of one of the trade attaches in there, who also went to that grade school. I will not say which one it is, I think, but they already mentioned it. But if anyone is interested, I'm more than willing to go around and share the contacts so that anyone who's listening into the show, who's keen on it, can actually get the assistance required. And they tend to be very, very responsive, very responsive.
Now, one thing, Hila, I will say that with these meetings that the chambers of commerce do, there's the American Chamber of Commerce and there's the Kenyan Chamber of Commerce. A lot of these meetings, I feel like they sometimes tend to become, for lack of a better word, like a good vibes event. Because a lot of people who go there, you're asking a question, like, okay, please come tell us what you gathered from there. And they actually have nothing to tell you. They have pictures on Instagram, they have pictures on social media, but they have nothing to tell you. Especially now let me not necessarily put it on the Chamber of Commerce. Let me just say the overall, because now there was a mix of a lot of people. The overall contingent that came with the president, I mean, of course, there was a mix-up with the Chamber of Commerce. There were so many things that happened, but there was no clear place to go and see this is what was happening here for people who are not physically there. So, and when you ask people, it's kind of like they don't know what to tell you.
Let me add something over here, and I think maybe that's the. Are you talking about Maxwell Okello?
Yes.
So Maxwell Okello was being interviewed. I did not know about this, but there's the American Chamber of Commerce, the Kenyan chapter. He's the one who heads it.
Okay.
He was being interviewed on Spice.
Oh yeah.
And
well, the one who was saying is not Okello Max.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and it was it's interesting how I think the representation of about 250 plus companies in there. But apparently with AGOA, we've only managed to do what, 9%, or is it 16%? It's a very, very small.
It's very small, yeah.
That is correct. Now,
very small.
I will seek to answer your question, Badawi, and I hope I'll be satisfactory in my response. So you mentioned about the Chamber of Commerce. So I have gone into forums of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. What they basically do, I'm sorry to say this, and I know I've got a couple of friends in there, they're a talk shop. I've gone for a couple of KEPSA sessions. I'm sorry to also say they're a talk shop. The differentiator that I've gotten with the American Chamber of Commerce Kenya chapter is that they have all of, I think, close to 300 members in there. And they break down the members into their various industry lines. So you'll get one for financial services, you'll get one for extractives, minerals and extractives, you'll get one for logistics and supply chain. And then these small cohorts would actually then be asked. There's a session to go to San Francisco, as was the case in September last year, or Washington, D.C., as the case was in March. What sort of people are you looking at trying to get? So they ask you this about a month or two in advance. And then they basically go around and reach out to their counterparts in the US and say, fine, we've got these various sub-segments from Kenya. Which particular sort of people and at what scale would you like to meet? By the time I was actually getting in to the American Chamber of Commerce on the Friday, 24th of May, I already had a hit list of who I was going to talk to. So they make it, easier to go out and have the conversations so that you don't just necessarily sit around in a crowd, take your cup of tea or coffee, eat an apple and say, I feel good vibes and
good vibes.
Good vibes and inshallah, you
Yeah.
know. But the plug that they need to be able to do is to also understand if they, for instance, are coming to Atlanta next year or they're going to Los Angeles, have they been able to tap into understanding what the Kenyan community would be interested in? Because we can talk about people reading their AGOA Act right now, knowing what the opportunities are. But do they have the ability to liaise? And this becomes a bit dicey because they're the American Chamber of Commerce, but they're seeking to understand what the Kenyans in the US are doing. This is where the interplay with the Kenyan embassy missions should come through and tell them up in advance. The feeling that I got was that the foreign mission in here was very concerned about the red carpet that they'd be giving to VIPs, being able to get them vehicles, but I don't get the feeling that they tapped into the local community to tell them, so you guys have been here for a while. What opportunities are you looking at? Because we have this list of people coming to Kenya. Who do you think you can actually collaborate with so that you can actually get, some level of mutual benefit? I think that is the last plug that needs to be placed there, because I can tell you, from the guys that I've had a chat with who came in from Kenya to the US, they're happy. I am personally happy about the contacts that I made, but I cannot necessarily say the same about the Kenyans based in the US who attended those particular forums.
Wow. I mean,
read Benny's comment, which is very quite interesting.
yes. So let me see. Where's Benny's comment? It says the issue is those in the chamber across the pond don't see the diaspora Kenyans as a resource, audience or market to do business. Basically, they want to deal with the Wazungus and not us. And that's what we got from the business expo that was in Atlanta, which almost you attended.
Yeah, it was a week-long expo. We really didn't know about it. It was run by the Kenya Chamber of Commerce. There were guys who were behind that. And there was actually a lot of networking one could do if you went there and had the program and knew what was going on, because they had people in textiles, people in ICT, people in banking, financial, government, long-term, stock options. What did they call that thing? The CBK were there.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of people in there. I mean, as well as the Diaspora Affairs Ministry. So, and these were, part of the exhibitors or the people who were there and you could network with, and they're telling you what the products are. Folks selling Maploti. They had various different folks within this space. I think SAFCOM were there as well and had representation, because the SAFCOM CEO was around as well during that, for at least that duration. Not sure if Vivo was there, but I know Vivo, again, back to AGOA. Vivo is a recipient of AGOA, so they came to the US via AGOA. There's other, and then what they've done is partnered with other smaller companies that are producing different things, because Vivo is basically textiles. So they do have someone who they are partnering with who does leather. There's another person who does household goods. There's another person who does, so they have different various things. Whatever it is that they are not, jewelry, the other things that they are not touching, they actually are liaising with other folks. And that's what makes up the Vivo store right now in Atlanta. And so as folks start to figure out the AGOA thing, then they'll get into, trying to figure out, okay, how do I get into AGOA? And back to what Mika was talking about with the PIN number, paying KRA, blah, 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 all of that. If you're not in good standing with KRA, you will not be able to slip through the AGOA. You need to bring your stuff this way, tax-free.
Yeah, so you see, I think part of the reason that made me, very tired of attending, like some of these events where our Kenyan, Kenyan Chamber of Commerce comes, or maybe just different, like maybe government entities.
Correct.
Where they're coming here to look for business. They, they look at us as a nuisance. And I feel like sometimes they come without a plan. I mean, you see like
Checkbox.
Yeah, you see. Yeah, you see like
box.
what Hila was saying. Like he knew specifically. Like the contacts that he was coming to meet. There's a proper plan. My, my mom, before she retired, she worked for the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi for so many years, and I would see, like her meticulous planning. She was involved in travel planning for now America. Like different people in different government entities in the U.S. who are coming to Kenya for specific things. And she used to have very detailed plans. Now, later on is when, like I'm remembering, like she would even carry, like work back home.
Correct.
Because of the details, like of who they're going to meet, like exactly what's needed for the meeting.
And sometimes you would get a call because of the time difference, and you need to fill those calls and fill in the blanks, or say, okay, here's where we are, this is what we did, this is what we decided, and we've booked A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so that person is on travel or transit, here's how the things are going.
So there's already activity well before that meeting happens. So by the time the meeting is happening, there's so much work that has been done such that meeting is just, now it's just like conclusion.
Correct.
Like we're just concluding and we're going to move forward. But With our Kenyan counterparts, unfortunately, it's the opposite. When you're meeting, it's like a speed dating event. Hi, hello, I am Kamau or I am Joroge, and that's where the conversation starts and it ends there. Maybe you exchange contacts, but there's nothing meaningful. And then the other problem is that, you know, people in Kenya like traveling. You know, like it's a favorite pastime. You know, maybe taught from up above with the president. Everybody else likes traveling, so sometimes people are just coming here.
I think you need to give context to that, but that's okay.
Please, because maybe you traveled.
No,
Some of us didn't
no,
travel.
when he's saying traveling, he's talking about per diem.
No, yeah, people
Government
coming,
officials.
Yes,
He's talking
government
about per
officials.
diem.
Yeah,
Period.
Talk
yeah,
about that.
yeah, just coming here, you know,
And
like,
it's not only government officials.
I understand that.
It's folks
Even
in companies,
private.
folks
Even
in
folks in the
whatever.
private
it's
sector,
per
yeah.
diem. Pretty much, let's look for something we can go do or have a meeting outside the country.
And there's a proposal to up the per diem from 2,000 to 5,000. Carry on.
Anyway, that's a long story, you know. But yeah, I hope we're just gonna get to a point where, you know, like we'll start professionalizing this. The negotiation, you know, like there was a U.S. Kenya free trade agreement, and maybe Hila, you might pick out a comment or two. I have noticed under the Biden administration, they have realized that they can buy Kenyans for cheap, because that trade agreement, that free trade agreement, it's been put on the side. Now they're giving us something different that's called STIP. That's not even a permanent, because a trade agreement is permanent. So your trade agreement ni kama imekuwa kando, you know, like a joker that I think Biden is putting on his chest to use at a later date, because there are so many things that he wants to get from Kenya, and he realized, if I pull this joker right now, you know, like things may not work out my way. So let me give them breadcrumbs kidogo hapa na pale, and then we'll pick this up.
Kuna joker na hiyo, kuna hizo tatu, pick 2, pick 3.
Yes, so
I hate it that Ali has been right so far about this.
And you see the problem, and for me, I'm just looking at how the U.S. government operates. One thing, in as much as Genocide Joe, you know, like has a lot of issues going on his plate.
Will be blackballed. He's
a political giraffe. You know, like in as much as we, you know, like I'm at a point where, for me personally, I'm no longer supporting him, and Trump people don't ever think we will ever support Trump. That's never gonna happen. But he's a guy who looks very forward. As sleepy as he looks on this Kenyan situation, because I've been monitoring it for a very, very long time. From the moment when they took that trade agreement and waka feature joker, and now they're only using pick 2s and pick 3s. And I personally thought that this trip that Ruto came, I'd already said I don't think the trade agreement will be sent, but I thought that maybe I might be wrong on this. You know, maybe this is where they're planning
or
to
at least even some movement or something.
So maybe just to give a bit of context. So AGOA has been around for perhaps a decade
20
or
years.
so.
20 something years.
20
It's
years.
been around for a long time.
Yeah, Clinton.
Sunsetting.
It was a Clintonian program.
Yeah, but the biggest problem that most organizations in Africa have not been able to unplug is understanding the regulation, particularly in a standards perspective, of products that need to get into the American market. And, you know, every so often things actually brought to standards are placed in. And, you know, we do not locally have the ability to understand how to get a clear understanding from the American counterpart so that we can actually align on that quality. So the people who potentially would benefit the most from the African Growth and Opportunities Act, AGOA, would be people who are domiciled in the US, because you quickly be able to go around and cross-reference and then be able to link up with Kenyan partners who will be able to do the manufacturing. The AFCFTA you're talking about, that's the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
Yeah.
It's actually a brainchild that is being pushed by the African Union. And what they're saying is that, so we've got lots of products ranging from horticultural products that, for instance, flowers coming in from Kenya into the UK, into Holland. We've got coffee, we've got tea. And because traditionally we've been able to understand what the quality mandates are, we already have a channel that works. But what AFCFTA, the Africa Free Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, is trying to do is to try and break out these silos that we've been having in Africa. In East Africa, the East African Community, we've got the SADC in the Southern region, we've got ECOWAS in West Africa. Say, hang on, guys. Why would you want to go around and increase the ability for you to generate revenue But if I'm moving items from Nairobi into Dar es Salaam, there are like 1,000,001 loops that I need to get into. Why would you want to go around and limit my ability to trade from Kenya to Ethiopia and be basically sharing a border because they're different ones? So I'm saying, hang on. To actually create one vibrant Africa. So they've gone back to what Muammar Gaddafi was envisioning more than 30, 40 years ago. We need to be able to actually agree if it's textiles, this is what will basically require, and it's going to be a standard across all the countries in
continent,
Africa.
yeah.
If it is Courier, this is a basic minimum standard. Then if we can then open up those opportunities within our continent, we then have the ability to now influence foreign standards that are being given. Because if the US then go around and realize that, okay, all the countries, 50 plus countries in Africa have got similar standards, if we really want to get these African products, and these guys have it already going on and it's working, maybe let's go around and change our baseline for standards into what AFCFT is working, because they're already doing it in Africa. But in there lies the issue, because I think there's a problem in Africa. The problem is that when you start feeling that your neighbor will benefit more than you, you'll try and stall the process. But if you look at it just as a tabletop exercise, if AFCFTA would have the ability to unlock a lot more trade in Africa, and in a sense also then get any other trading bloc partner, be they from Europe, from Asia, or from the Americas, to now say, hang on, these guys already have their standards, they're already thriving. We actually yearn for their products because they're niche products. Let's plug into it.
Wow, I mean, this is quite interesting conversation, and I think these are the opportunities that people in the diaspora need to be looking at, because we are also not very familiar with a lot of these opportunities that exist from the American government that we can take advantage of, because I think these are the opportunities that will give us good returns, and not what everybody else is running to do. So I think these are the things that people need to be looking at. A couple of comments have been coming in, for quite a while while we're having the conversation. People have been, talking back and forth.
By the way, Udi is mad. Joey, I'm giving a big shout out to Joey.
Okay.
Joey, mother.
Sawa. And then I think, there were comments are coming before. Afro-Jamaican says, note, some countries have a double taxation policy with different countries. Jamaica and Canada has one. If I pay taxes in Canada, I don't even have to file taxes in Jamaica. In Jamaica, I am listed as a non-domicile. So I have opted out of the tax system, and you can even opt out of the Canadian tax system. Find out if Kenya has that arrangement. Where I would love to know that, because I will swiftly opt out even before opting in. But
Ali, you can't opt out. You own like mega land.
Yeah. So
unless you sign it over to the show, we'll do interviews there.
Okay, let me see. Benny Diongo here saying vendors are always welcome. This is in reference to Cape Fear Sevens.
Yes.
We have to go through the host of the tournament, Cape Fear RFC. Know your audience for your product or services. And then I can see Afro-Jamaican says expats are buying land and opening SMEs in Kenya. So,
correct. He's very right.
So yes, and that's
There's
the reason
a ton
why.
of them.
That's the reason why. In as much as I encourage people to take full advantage of opportunities here before going to Kenya, I'll never be part of that team that says never invest in Kenya, because you have people who've been frustrated who say never invest in Kenya. But the reason why I'll never be part of that team is because I see foreigners, I see Arabs, I see Chinese, I see Americans.
Ali wako ngapi huko kwenyu?
Wako wengi sana.
And they
whenever
marry a local girl, and so they get citizenship while they are in the same process investing in this place, and they have retired there.
Whenever you see these people, it means that there are businesses that are making very good returns.
Correct.
So we just need to figure out what these opportunities are. And here Stephen JJ is saying hydrogen is very combustible. I think this was in reference to what Hila was saying earlier.
About
Hapo lazima extreme care. We have been trying to move away from helium as it is becoming very rare. Hydrogen iko na resistance bado juu ya hiyo nature yake. Extreme care has to be taken. Hapa Hila, we have some experts in the industry, and this is where some of these chambers of commerce in Kenya, when they come here, they don't take advantage, because we have experts like in Stephen JJ, we have experts like in Wanjeri, we have experts even here in the studio.
Yeah, in different fields.
Industries.
Yes, and they don't. That's what Hila was saying.
Yes.
It's like the diaspora are like a checkbox.
Yes, they're like a checkbox. Like they're like a nuisance. But anyway,
It's like the Rooney rule.
Yes.
Just interview a black guy and then hire a white
then
guy,
hire a white guy,
as a head coach.
And then
That's right. I said it.
Edwin Odipo says, who was the link person here in the US? I think
That is pertaining to the
To which one? To the Chamber of
the
Commerce,
Chamber of
to
Commerce,
the Expo.
to the whatever. What Hila brought.
yeah, because Edwin
He said
Odipo
the
is saying
trade,
people
the
were
trade
very,
representative at the embassy,
he's saying
right?
Yes.
Edwin Odipo is saying people were very secretive with information, which
He
is also
actually
problematic.
is very right. And what we have found a lot of times, like especially with this, in the case where when the president was coming over, everything was quote unquote being run from Nairobi, and the folks from Nairobi were holding everything in their pocket.
Yes.
Yes.
Then they check, then they see, okay, does this guy meet our nini apana Z? They say nothing.
even
And then
the
they were
embassy.
splitting
Yeah.
the way information was coming out. So no one guy knew anything.
Even the embassy, because
Even the embassy wasn't familiar.
No.
Did not know what was going
it
on.
was
Udi was complaining one
It
time
was
because he was
sad.
like, by the way, on my Kati, this guy is coming to Atlanta. I'm like, yeah, but do you have any other information? I'm like, no.
We don't.
All the information that we have is right there on the website. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that we were knowing. We didn't know where.
you
You
know,
know, there was no game plan.
For
I
me,
told you guys we were fed.
Yes.
They fed about 1,000 people on day one. About 1,000 folks were fed on day one.
now you
No
see-
asking you CG Nini, no checking in, nothing, no CG at, you know, the way everybody signs up and CG,
Yeah, no.
zero. We, day one at the expo, ask Benny. We were fed, in fact, there was too much food. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, so anyway, Benny says the issue in those in the chamber across the pod don't see the diaspora as a
you read
resource.
that,
I think we already read that comment. And Dunge karibu sana to the One Mic Show. Washeke here says, I have had this comment from African Americans as well. This thing of the officials coming from Kenya just wanting to meet white people. And I think this is something that has to be spoken about. And it was the issue also when they were launching KQ out here. The biggest clientele anytime when you go to a KQ flight is Kenyans, but they are not coming to Kenyans.
How much
to market
information were we even told?
Yeah.
We did not know.
There was no information.
You
And
remember?
we just saw water on the plane.
Do you remember Dinner for
That's
Champions?
it.
Yeah.
They have a North American chapter. Had you ever heard about
Magical Kenya.
Magical Kenya
No,
having a North
never.
American chapter?
Never. Anyway, and then I see here Udimadenga says, can we start making travel across Africa easier? Very true. That's something that I think Wanjeri has a lot to say about.
They're trying to work on it.
Yeah, they're
but
trying to work on it, but it's still not where it's
until
supposed
they
to
get
be.
to that whole visa thing and
Yeah.
passports, and then this embassy, these guys allowing you to do this. And if you watch a lot of the YouTubers who travel within Africa, the stories are sad, and especially when they're not even flying but driving at the border points. And you can sit for 2 days before you're allowed in. And it's supposed to be like you have the right passport. You're not supposed to be asked for a visa, but it's a 2-day process of sitting over there because other than ule mtu anataka kitu kidogo, the other guy who's supposed to get kitu kidogo has not come, shift si yake. So nikaa uko hapo unamngojea ndio hizi pesa zipeanwe. So what you go through.
Okay. And then here Benny says AGOA is scheduled to expire next year, September 30th, 2025.
Yeah,
This is another
it's to be extended.
This is another
supposedly.
joker. This is another joker that Genocide Joe, that guy,
Ali, just say the guy is politically savvy.
that guy, like I don't know, like this is another joker is holding close. I mean, he has details on very small issues you think he's not paying attention to, and I don't know. Africans are gonna get screwed. Africans are gonna get screwed because I think even part of the reason why there was a pause in the trade agreement, there was, I think, also a lot of questions that were coming up on how it was clashing with local agreements, local trade agreements, ESC, SADC, like other trade agreements that Kenya is part of.
But wasn't Moses Courier the initial guy who was supposed to be handling that contract?
Yes, but guess what they did?
Wow.
The U.S. trade representative demanded that they don't want Moses, and that's a power they are wielding. They demanded that they don't want to deal with that guy.
But the question is, what exactly was? Why did they not want to deal with Moses Courier? Because on the outside is probably he's very he was sending a
They-
bad career, but maybe inside he was probably
they knew,
he was probably
they
like
knew,
no,
boss,
he was
they
he was,
knew
he
what
was
they're-
like
they're like this chap.
we cannot take advantage of this
Yeah.
guy.
No. Watch out!
I'm just
they're like,
guessing here.
If he goes in there, it will be his agreement. It won't be Kenya's. It will be his agreement.
Yes, so you see, and I think that's part of the problem, because now we're in a situation where we are negotiating, but we are very disadvantaged in this negotiation. When you look at the people on the team of the U.S. trade representative side, my goodness, you're looking at the experience they have. Some of them have experience in Africa. Some of them are working as diplomats in Africa. Some of them have experience working for years in WTO. Some of them have very intimate knowledge of Kenya and what we're looking for.
Correct.
But on the other side, we have let me
Like,
not even
we
say.
need people who understand food security, guys who understand agriculture, guys who understand energy, guys who understand financial, guys who are from economic standpoint, health. All of these things are things that you have opportunity to throw in there. The same way when you have a state visit, you're given a blank canvas, then you say what you want. That's basically it. Am I
Yeah.
lying, Ali?
Yes, that's you're given a blank canvas.
It's a
so,
blank
So when
canvas,
they look
and you say
they're
what you
like,
want.
it's kind of like being given a job offer, and we have career expert Tabitha here can tell us. You're given a job offer, wanakuambia mshahara ni 100K. Their expectation. This is something that I didn't know before I attended Tabitha's classes. You're offered 100K. Their expectation is that you negotiate. Like upon 100K, Toshi. But then when you say, I am happy, give me the 100K, they'll be like, okay.
So
you
be
know.
it.
Yeah, so be it. So that's kind of, like the situation.
She's right. I
that-
got
that
like
we're
another,
currently
when
in.
I was interviewing, I got like another 10K on top of like what they offered me. I was like, pana, you guys, hii kitu iende juu. And right now I'm still even again in negotiations again because it's that time. But again, everything depends on where you're going in. Is it a small company? Can you get stock options? Can you get this? If you don't get this, then can you get that? If you don't, you know what I'm saying? So you look at the entire picture. Are you getting time off of work? Are you getting sick pay? Are you getting whatever? And all of those things equate to money, which you add to your overall package. So some of these are the things that people need to think about when they're going in and negotiating on monies. Maybe there's tuition reimbursement and you care more about school than that money you're going to take home. So you say, okay, fine, I'll do the school. Let me sort that thing out. It gives me ability to go and get a promotion elsewhere or go in and negotiate for now a managerial level job because that's the minimum requirement they're saying I need to enter with.
Okay. Now, Udi's saying, why do we need Americans to help us? Yet a Kenyan has so much hard to travel to DA Angola. Your statement sijaelewa. Udi rewrite that statement. And then, of course, Benidionga said AGOA is scheduled to expire next year in September. And then, let me see, Udi says, say I couldn't get a visa to Equatorial Guinea, but had to use my US passport. Very sad. And then Washeke here says, during those clubhouse days, there was a Sudanese British who works within the UK trade, and she lamented how our government officials are always ill-equipped to negotiate. They are easily impressed by dinners, palace tours, and concede too much. And by the way, Americans do this deliberately. Whenever you see this red carpet, this razzmatazz, it is very deliberate. They know you'll get very excited. You'll be sending those pictures back home. But in the meantime, while weko kando, they are busy screwing you pole pole.
Yeah, I'll even put you up in the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
At $400 a night.
Bila Lube. And we can see about there what Slay is saying.
Yeah. And Slay is saying, tuning in bright and early from Nairobi. Karibu sana, Slay. Thank you for tuning in all the way.
Pesa, brown envelope na
No
Maldives.
wonder huyu mtu I have not been, nimekuwa nikiangalia nyuma ya tent naonekani.
Yeah.
Kumbe this is what's
Ni zile pesa
brown envelope money.
brown envelope money na hiyo
brown
Maldives.
envelope money to her.
But ni sawa tu
Indio
kadhaa.
Maldives. Indio Maldives.
Mika was right.
Slay.
Endelea tu
Slay,
kutunini.
don't reveal our secrets.
Yeah, but anyway, Hila, before we get to talk about rugby, just give us a brief of honestly what you think, because you've been both sides. You've stayed for extended periods here with us, so you have an interesting perspective that most people in Kenya might not have about our lives here. So if I have, like my little savings, my 10,000, my 20,000, maybe even up to 50,000, if I'm not adept in whatever you said earlier in doing those businesses in Kenya, what would you advise? Do we take our money right now to Kenya, or do we stick with it here with what we know?
Avocados.
You have asked me a very antagonistic question, because one, I'm still very patriotic as a Kenyan. I would say there is still opportunities to go around and invest, but the bucket of opportunities is getting limited just because of the risk. One of the best ways to go around and plan and execute a business is when you're operating in a very stable business operating environment. And the last 18 months has not really been one of the most stable operating environments in Kenya. So you're limited on options to go around and pick in. What would I actually say, having been in Kenya and also having spent extended periods of time in the US? I think I don't want to go around and repeat myself and sound like a broken record. I think there's a lot more opportunity, and there's a lot more need to ensure that the same way these particular visits are organized from a Kenyan perspective, such that I'm actually going to speak to these four fellows, because the way, if you've been in sales, you've got a pipeline. There'll be what you'll actually call cold, warm, and really hot ones. So you limit your time to actually focus on the ones that will work. So the same sort of approach that is done from Kenya should actually be done in here. Now, whether that would be the embassy literally just coming in to own their space, or whether it would require someone who's strong enough and very influential locally across the various states that people operating in, that is, the jury is still out there. But I think the one thing that I have seen is the lack of the same level of opportunities being done to prepare well, particularly for the diasporans in the US to get in there. So yes, is there opportunity? Yes. Is the bucket wide? I don't want to lie. It's not as wide, but there's still opportunity. Is there need to be able to ensure that there's razor sharp focus? When you're going to go around and hunt, you want to go around and, eat a gazelle. You don't go around and shoot in a place where there are buffaloes and saying that I'll pick something in there. You'll probably end up picking up a monitor lizard, which, yes, you've shot some game meat. In West Africa, that will be considered food, but you need to be able to ensure that you plan early enough so that you can get what you need. So I think those would be my comments on what you've actually asked.
And that's a very interesting perspective, because that's the same perspective that's used in a lot of marketing and sales teams out here in the US, because I've done a lot of training. Like, you have to categorize your leads. Whenever you're following leads, you don't want to waste your time with those low opportunity leads. They're those very hot leads. You'd rather go, like, spend a lot of time with them, and then if there's time left, especially when you're attending like trade shows. I've attended trade shows, I think, in more than 10, maybe even more than 20 states in the US. And it's very interesting that we start planning for these trade shows like sometimes 6 months before we go. Like, we are slowly planning, we are contacting people, we are communicating with people, because you're attending a trade show that has 20,000 attendees. So you can't just go and talk to everyone. So you already have a list of people who are going to talk to you, and then there's also a list of people who are contacting you, because there are also other companies that are trying to look for business from your company, whether it's shipping business, whether it's business for like any kind of support, whether it's IT business. So that's very interesting. I think part of the problem that we have in Kenya is that the political class and the civil service, they are kind of married. We need to have continuity in the civil service, because that's where America beats a lot of people. There's continuity in the civil service where they don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat. Like, if you're heading this agency, you're heading it. And sometimes they may make a few political changes here and there, but the core people, the core experts, if you go to the Foreign Service, if you go to Homeland Security, there are certain core people, there are certain core skills that they want to maintain there. Not like in Kenya, ati sasa Ruto ameingia, watu wa Uhuru wote lazima watoke. Now mtu wa Ruto anaingia, someone who has zero experience, and then again you're now starting from scratch. So every year we have people starting from scratch.
Every election year.
Every election year.
Yes.
We have people starting from scratch. Now nasikia, like NHIF is being cancelled, and they're coming up with another one called social.
It's being absorbed into shift.
Yeah, it's being absorbed into shift.
It's
something social something fund. So that one is going to encompass
SHA.
So SHA is going to be the big umbrella.
So it's kind of like everyone is coming up with their new ideas, and there's lack of continuity, and this becomes very problematic. My advice to diasporans who want to invest in Kenya: be smart about it. Know your resting metabolism when it comes to investing. Unajua resting metabolism ni nini? Resting metabolism is that part of your body, and maybe Mika might explain this better. And amekuwa guru of fitness. He's lost like 200 pounds in the last 1 year. But resting metabolism is the amount of weight or the metabolism that your body is consuming while your body is at rest.
When you're at rest.
Yeah, meaning you're not exercising.
You're not exerting yourself.
So that means you're not doing anything. So that resting metabolism is like the minimum. Now, when it comes to finances, we also have a resting metabolism in America, meaning a return that you can get without any effort. You know, and typically the resting metabolism by dollar amounts is around 10%, and it's usually tagged to the S&P 500. So anyone who has no experience in investing can buy an S&P 500 fund tomorrow, and on average, it's not going to be 10% every year. It's going to be on average in the long run. So some years you'll make 35%, some years you're going to get maybe negative 10%, but on average in the long run you'll return at 10%, and this is in dollar terms. In dollar terms, you're going to double your money every 7 years. There's something called the rule of 72, where you take the rate of return, divide by 72. That's the amount of time it's going to take to double your money. So it's going to take 7 years to double your money by doing nothing. Now, if we're going to convert that to shillings, you have to double your shillings in 5 years. Because remember, when you're investing in shillings, you have to factor in the exchange rate fluctuation, which we've always lost. I know people are now looking in the short term of what has happened, and this has happened before too, but in the long run, we have always, the dollar has always appreciated against the shilling. You can go back starting 1990, you'll notice the trend
it's always gone
is
up.
that it's always gone up.
Yeah.
So on that resting metabolism, when you're looking at an investment opportunity in Kenya, think of something that can double that. For me, my number is 30%. Show me something that can give me an estimated 30% every year in Kenya, and I will consider it. Without that, personally, I'm not touching anything, because a lot of these things that people are touching, they end up, like either sometimes making a very low rate of return, or even in some cases making losses. I don't know, Hila, what you think about that short analysis before we go to rugby. Hila?
No, you're actually very, very, very bang on the money. One of the things that has had a ripple effect on us, particularly over the last couple of months, is, like you clearly mentioned, the devaluation of the Kenyan shilling. But it then becomes quite an interesting prospect, because just the act of, if in the last 18 months you transmitted US dollars to Kenya, all of a sudden overnight, you actually have gotten that basic 30% number that you're talking about, number one. However, just to go back onto it, I'm not saying that it's all gloom and doom. If you're also just keen on trying to invest in watertight sort of options that will still yield benefits, not necessarily doubling in business or anything of the sort, I think the T-bills have become very, very, they become an option that is very attractive for overseas investment. Unfortunately, it has then had a ripple effect of almost doubling the interest rates for personal loans for the normal mwananchi back home in Kenya. So those are areas, if you want to have passive income, that you don't necessarily have to go around and worry about, what will happen. Eventually, at the point in time you want to go around and withdraw it, there's that tax that you'll also be given. But it's definitely something that can also allow you to then grow a portfolio, be able to buffer yourself as you're running the business. So like you clearly mentioned, and I don't want to take anything from your statement, which I totally agree with, it's also just about understanding what it is that you're willing to do. There are some people who would be happy being able to go around and manage a business and follow it on a day-to-day level. There's some who are just looking at a passive sort of investment stream. that they can go around and make returns and, be able to go around and support a couple of things that they're doing back home.
Okay, asante sana Hila. A few comments here. Washeke is saying Kenya has high risks but also potential for high returns. You just have to find your niche and be here physically to operate. And then Gerald Oliech is saying, I think the question we should ponder is what actual opportunity cost does Kenya still hold? The options are flooded and risk assessments are not factual because of repetition of the same opportunities. And then Udi says, I was trying to say that we need to figure out how we can make travel within Africa easier because that's how we can grow business.
100.
Benny says, as Kenyans, we walk in looking at what is on the table while Americans come in knowing what they have in the kitchen plus the ingredients. Oh my goodness, that needs to be framed. We have to look at the big picture when negotiating with the US. The big picture gives us leverage. For example, USA military has to vacate Chagos Islands like yesterday. They need a base on the Indian Ocean. Manda base in Kenya became an option. Ruto went back with US expanding Manda base after the trip. I don't think he saw how desperate US was for a base. We could have pushed for more. I am not an expert, and I totally agree. This is exactly what I was saying. We got the US got a lot for breadcrumbs, and even some of what they'd given us before, to say your trade agreement was full of, well, we said, apana, let's give them one slice because it seems like they're hungry for this one slice. Now atakubali. Unfortunately, we are where we are. And it's also about understanding where the person you're negotiating with is desperate. The US was desperate to get a base, but we did not do that play very well.
We were mesmerized by invite.
Yeah,
and
by
that
red
was
carpets.
that.
Yeah.
And sitting on the White House chair.
Yes, and dinners and taking pictures. And then Gerald Oliech says Kenya only has a 3.5 policy and work cycle because beyond that we fall into campaigns and politics. So the rate of return in Kenya is very unstable and cannot be worked out with any formula with an unstable and unpredictable market, as a campaign and politics are things that stall business and returns.
I think I meant 3.5-year policy.
Or 3.5-year policies.
Work cycle. But as you think about it.
Yeah. So Afro-Jamaican says my borders are missing and they stop depositing. Kenya is Kenyaing me. Where Afro-Jamaican has a whole story to tell. But anyway, so much for taxes na Kenya na nini.
What I want to say is, people, guys, listen. And I was thinking about this on the way here. Whether we like it or not, we have to be involved in the process. Be it the finance bill, we have to know what's going on.
Yes.
Our parents, our loved ones are there. Wakinyanyaswa, ni sisi hapa tunapigiwa SOS. Because remember, the people who have not gone back to school, the students who have not gone back to school, there's some schools that are still shelter points because of the flooding that happened.
Yeah.
Right? There's shule hazijapewa pesa zao. Capitation bado.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, but you have to be involved. Hapa sasa ni taxes that are affecting people. And when we did the show last, that one of cell phones, local you import stuff to put cell phones together. Sawa wanachapa VAT. So a phone that was costing you 8,000 is now going to cost 9,600, something like that.
Where?
So either way, you have to just go there. Mambo ya KRA na PIN. You will find people are going to lose land if you don't open up your eyes.
People need to be very careful.
You have to be because you say,
and different jurisdictions are also enforcing differently. So you need to be on top of that land rates, land rent.
Yes.
Business.
And then you have insiders who have insiders in KRA, so they are watching.
They're waiting.
They're waiting to see which land is being defaulted on, and they will be ready to sweep
And they've told the guy, if it's bigger than this in this area, let me know. The minute that there's an issue and there's a list, there's a running list.
Yeah. You go to your land that you spend so much money, like to buy, and you find someone else occupying it and building on it.
And a lot of the things you can actually do from here, meaning like once you have registered, you can go in and pay your land rates, your land rent, blah blah, all those sorts of things, because they've made it very.
Yeah.
You cannot make sure that ringtone doesn't grab it while you're here.
That is true. That is true. But what I'm trying to say, at least you start that process, and you're right, Mikasi. That part of ringtone grabbing it becomes tricky. Na saa zingine hata unajua watu waganasema you can go block the inaitwaje ile green card, sijui nini, lakini kuna wale wasewaga ndio hao they have ways when they're coming and showing up with those jamas who are throwing you off your land. By
The
then
goons.
Imeenda.
it's a tough battle, and you have to have kahunas and know people who know other people who know some other people.
Okay.
And even then it becomes difficult.
Yeah. Now let's go back to Hila, the former Kenya Rugby Union director. Let's talk some rugby. We talked a lot of rugby last week. Last week we had an episode that was rugby from the beginning to the end, and
it was rugby centric.
With who? What's his name again?
Konye. With the Nairobi West accent.
Yes.
Konye.
That's a bullshit accent. The proper accent. Okay. That was number 4 on the list.
Okay.
Okay.
Sawa. Now, Hila, before we get started, your conversation here, Konye, last week, like any nugget you picked up. I know you're a rugby insider. Is there anything you picked up? Because this was a fan side conversation, which sometimes maybe the officials are on the official side. Is there anything that you picked up from the fan side conversation?
Well, I can tell you for a fact, I was very impressed by his understanding of what is happening in country. Most of the guys in Kenya, they say, Olo Jama, they do not know what they're talking about, they don't understand. But maybe just to add on to, some of the things that you've mentioned, and I think we've had this discussion with a couple of Kenyans in the last 3 weeks that have been around. There's been a lot of emphasis on the participation and the quality of our sevens team. And people had actually lost sight of the fact that there's an entire system that needs to be looked into play. The one thing that I can say, I feel very confident about the current runnings at the Kenya Rugby Union is that they've taken a step back, and I think it was important to get the relegation so that it could, inspire some level of thought in our system. What has actually happened in the last 12 odd months, the setup of structures, other than the under-20 team that won the Africa Rugby Championship and they'll be traveling to Scotland in early July to play in the Junior World Trophy, they've been able to go around and set up feeder systems at under 18, under 15, and under 13, such that we then start focusing on not only just being competitive, but quality, and being able to teach some of these particular softer skills much earlier. Biko Adema and Paul Odere. I think Paul Odere is managing the under 18 team. He's the immediate former under 20 coach. Biko Adema is managing the under 15s. And then they've got structures, all being managed by what they're calling the high performance coach, Jerome Parvota, who used to be at Western Province. So he basically says that you've got to be able to have a rugby DNA. One of the things that, of course, has been very, very dicey is the fact that we've also never had sponsorship. And, we've already spoken about the environment back home. And companies are not necessarily having it on a good scale. Anytime you bring in a tax, it's actually a cost to the company, and fewer companies are now seeding off marketing sponsorship opportunities into sports, because it's now being perceived as a cost as opposed to something that can be beneficial. So having the structures in and being able to remain competitive at sevens, at age grade, at 15 aside, in my opinion, at some point in time, will then open up opportunities for some of these youngsters to then get a chance to ply their trade in places like France, places like Japan, where you'd actually get a decent pay as a rugby player. Because the reality is that for the longest time, there was this drive to ensure that you could end up having Kenya being a pro rugby playing station. But the reality is that even a person who plays for one of the bigger soccer teams in Kenya, like Gor Mahia, or a bigger team like AFC Leopards, would only get paid 20 or 30,000 shillings. And this is a sport where, it's a no-brainer. You go around and seek for sponsorship, be given 50 million, but that's still not enough.
Wait,
so I think the mindset is changing.
Wait,
where
pause
people
up.
are realizing.
Pause up with 20,000 shillings.
Yes,
Is
that's what a professional soccer player earns in Kenya.
a month or a week or a
month.
match?
A month.
Oof, okay.
A month.
That is new information to me.
When you hear that there's a new Burundian striker who has been brought in to play for Gor Mahia or Nigerian AFC Leopards, they'll only get maybe 40K. So what we term as being professional is not necessarily as professional as it should be. So yeah, I'm glad that there are systems that are allowing us to then go around and showcase our talent at the highest level. I'm very excited at the fact that Chip are going to Scotland for the Junior World Rugby Trophy. I'd like to hope that some of these youngsters could potentially get rugby scholarships and get a chance to further their careers. But I think now the mindset locally is try and ensure that you can generate as much quality as possible, remain competitive as high and as best as you can, because the only opportunities that will be life-changing for these fellows is that they probably go and get some of these particular scholarships to further their careers and whatnot. And the reality is that even when you compare rugby and soccer, and you look at the highest paid rugby player of all time, they earn a pittance compared to what soccer guys earn. So the next is also tell them, start planning for your life after rugby. Are you going to get into coaching? Do you want to get into a professional sort of bit? Because even on a global perspective, it's a sport that we're very passionate about. But we've got to also be very real. You'll never get paid as much as a golfer or as an athlete if you're playing rugby, or as much as a Premier League soccer player. But if you're competitive enough, other opportunities will pop up. You're playing international high octane tournaments, and you'll get a chance at knocking on some doors and making some change in your life.
This is quite interesting, and that's the reason why we like talking to people who have these fresh and unique perspectives now. Because I remember last year when we were talking to you last year, it was a very sad moment. It was just moments after we had been relegated. And I remember how you were describing how overdrafts met with money being taken out of accounts and that being the reason why some players were not getting paid, because there was an issue of players playing, like trying to block the sponsor's name.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that were going on.
Brouhaha.
Yeah, and I think the relegation, of course, kind of gave people a chance to sit back, and it gave like the way we say it in the Lenana school, to sieve the trash, and the good stuff came up, which was actually, I think, a very good thing indeed. What prospects are you seeing now? We have the Olympics game coming up. I think the women's team is going for a qualification tournament. I really hope the women's team manages to sip through and qualify. They were one game away from playing in the qualifying tournament in Madrid. But what prospects are you seeing? We have, of course, the men's Olympics coming up, and then of course we have the circuit that's gonna start in December. Well, what's your projection for this coming season here?
So I'll start with the ladies. It was very inspiring and very exciting to see that Grace Okulu and Janet Okello, who pretty much did not play for the Lionesses entire season because they're committed playing club rugby in Japan, are back in the team. Grace Okulu is a monstrous player at number 10. She can hit harder than a truck. Janet Okello has got wheels for days, I think that was one aspect that we missed out on the Lionesses. I get the feeling that if we had those two players in Poland, we would have actually been able to qualify for the repechage, but we are on the front of coulda, shoulda, woulda, and we can only go around and dictate what we can play on ahead. It'll be interesting to see just how they'll be able to inspire the team ahead of the repechage. If you had to ask me who starts as fan favorites in that repechage tournament, it would definitely be China. I mean, China were imperious. China have actually not lost a game the entire season, not in any of the Challenger Trophy series, not even at the Madrid tournament. China have not lost a single game. And them having a tactician like Gordon Tietjens, a former New Zealand Sevens coach, at the helm, I would say if we can basically put in our best foot forward, be able to blend in Janet Okello and Grace in well, we may have a chance onto them. But it's good to actually see the girls back in. I go back on to just what I'd also mentioned to give you then an understanding of what I would then expect. The similar sort of structure that has been done when I talked about under 20, under 18, and under 15 has unfortunately only been done for the male code. I think a similar sort of structure needs to also be set out for the women's code so that there's level of competitiveness. It would be good to get a couple more girls going into Japan to play, so that, we can also go out and get that level of confidence and the ability to compete at the highest level being nurtured up. What do I actually anticipate for the Olympics? I am a dreamer. I am praying for a podium finish. What am I actually hoping for the next season? I may be pushing it a bit too hard, but I remember the last time the Kenya Sevens team won a tournament in Singapore in 2016, just what that did for the sport in the country. I would like to hope that once the series starts in Dubai and ends next year in June, that we can at least win one tournament. I think there's a very hungry group of individuals who are in there. The thing that makes them dangerous is that they're a known commodity.
Yes.
And when you're actually having very hungry, unknown players, then you can start dreaming. I would like to believe that they have it within themselves to win a tournament. Don't ask me why. Maybe I'm a dreamer, but I actually fancy that we might win one tournament next year.
Actually, Hila, that's one thing that I believe it's going to happen, because if you look at this team, like, definitely, let's go back to our best team that we ever had. The team that had the big three, the team that had Gibu, Tol, and
Kolo.
Gibu, Tol, and Kolo alikuwa mtoto bado. Gibu, Tol, and Lavin. When he had those three, and they were the core of that team, that was one team that we used to know that between Lavin's boot and Gibu and Tol's height and strides, we could beat anybody in any given day. And that was the team that reached the semi-finals of the World Cup, and that was the team that went and won in Singapore. Now, the thing is, after that, people came and learned how Kenyans play. Friday came in, and Friday backed us up and taught us to play using pace, using power. We have pace, but taught us power. And that Kenyan team used to out-foul every team. You try to go in for a tackle, they lift you up, they hold you, they get the ball, they go, they charge you. People learned how to play against us in that team. This new team, this one right now that we have, has everything. They can beat you from the boot, they cannot run you, they cannot pace you. They have power to go toe-to-toe with anybody if it comes to power. The basics of rugby are there, they're young and they're learning and they're going to improve. And I totally agree with Hila. Like, if this team continues playing through the series, a whole continuous series, I see us winning one series, but then I see us continuously being among the contenders of the in the circuit in the coming years. If we maintain this team and with the same development process is kept from the age groups coming up, we have that conveyor belt of players who can come in and replace. And when somebody has to do live, somebody is injured, we have a player who just comes in and integrates easily. So for me, I see this. And Ali, I told you last time, a relegation is a blessing.
Yes,
a relegation
I agree with
really is a blessing.
I agree with you. I was in my emotions after that relegation, because I was looking at countries like Portugal. They got relegated in 2015. Nilianza kufanya verifiable research. Portugal got relegated in 2015. They've never come back up. So I think, I started having these nightmare scenarios in my mind. Like, what if, is this the end of, might this be the end of Kenyan rugby? Spain also at some point got relegated. I think it took them like 4 years to come back. It's sometimes very difficult to get relegated and then just to get promoted the following season. So, and of course, when we got relegated, the structures were falling apart. So I was just trying to think, like, what miracle could make us get back up there?
Because also me, like, when I would look at it, I would look at a team like Argentina, and I'm like, these guys just came from nowhere and are just dominating.
But Argentina has been.
Argentina didn't come from nowhere.
No, when I say come from nowhere, like, let's agree, like, it's not that they were just there.
No, Argentina.
No,
They
no,
just came up.
one
They
mic.
just came up.
Hey, boss,
Ah,
boss.
okay.
Argentina.
No,
Okay.
no,
Argentina.
one mic. Argentina is a big rugby team.
Now they are. No. Now they
No,
are. I'm
no,
talking
no.
about, not even 15s. I'm talking about 7s. I'm
Not,
talking about
not
I'm talking
now.
about 7s.
No, Argentina si team ya juzi. You can ask. He has played rugby more than me, and he will tell you. Argentina si team ya juzi.
Hey, Argentina's team ya juzi. Argentina's team ya juzi. The only thing we
Argentina
can
si team ya
say,
juzi.
the only thing we can say is that now they started dominating to the point where they are on top of the table. You know, like with this new format, I mean, I don't know. The winner now is France, but Argentina, you know, like they got to a point where but they've always been, you know, like a top 4 team in the circuit for a very, very long time in the 70s.
For Argentina to be considered to be added to the Southern Hemisphere so that they can play the Super Series, that is not a small country in rugby.
No, they're not. I'm talking about 15s. I'm talking about 7s. Not
Even
15s.
7s.
Ah, 7s.
boss.
For these countries, they use 7s as their development program for their 15s. 7s is their feeder for their 15s.
Yes.
So their 7s is not a small program really, and the juicy guys easy. No, Argentina they're not many in rugby. That's
Hapa
no,
Ben Diong anasema we don't have structures and systems to be professional Kenyan sports. He lies right. We have to expose our talented players to the world, then get them to get the best opportunities. Benny says Grace is only like 22 years. She graduated during the pandemic. So happy to see her play in Japan. Then another interesting point that Washeke brings up, saying because I know many diaspora folks who are not aware that they may have inherited property from their parents that could be impacted. So that's another very important thing.
Yeah, about the land rates and and go back home, do the research, find out, catch up.
99-year end.
Yeah, and then Upper Benian and Uliza, how do you really feel, Ali, now that we put Canada on tier 2 in, you know, when when during that tournament, man, ikitu yani, like I was getting like some serious I was getting some serious butterflies yani during that time, because I was like, do we want to play Canada? Or it would have felt nice to put out Canada in the tournament because wao ndo walitutoa. But anyway,
it so happened.
But walitolewa. So now we're going to have a tournament in Vancouver, and I'm curious how the tournament is going to be without Canada playing. Of course, we have a series in places like Hong Kong and Singapore, where you don't have the host country play.
For years they haven't been.
Yeah, for years, and people
but
still go.
Don't they feel like a
No.
You still feel like you're part of everything because you're hosting. These are your guests. You're
but
hosting.
you know the good thing
great.
about
Go ahead.
the good thing about hosting these tournaments is that, like, I'll give you an example of Dubai. Dubai doesn't have a team, right?
Yeah.
But then the thing was, us CC clubs in tunacheza huko, like we would be like all the clubs would participate in a club competition. So the players that are there, Dubai couldn't produce a team. So the team ilikuwa GCC. That was Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar. Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, and which other country? Bahrain. Because na form team moja. So that team is not good enough to be able to play in the series competition. So what they did was like there was a lot of club competition in between local. The way Vegas used to do it. Vegas there was that much of
ongoing
local
tournament.
The local tournament.
That's the thing. So it's the same thing that just as what Canada is gonna do. Like they're gonna have a lot of those local teams, local people. So there's still going to be a local presence around because the tickets are going to be the same. So there will not be a lack of fans the way if you went to another region where there's not much of a local competition. Let's say, for example, if this tournament was in Kenya and Kenya was not playing, watu wagenda jioni kwenda kudunda. Watu wagenda kwa daraki. So like the tournament is still gonna be. What I'm saying is the tournament is gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay. But again, it's kind of weird for the host not participating. it's kind of maybe, and but then these days sevens doesn't have that as invitational side.
Yeah,
These days
hiyo
it's a
hakuna.
circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, kuna invitational side. So yeah, so it's just it's going to be dependent on the local clubs, the local tournaments. That's what they're going to use to feel like, to make sure that the local fans come around.
Okay. Aya, sawa sawa. Uno Mike, do we go to Wahenga ama?
Wahenga walinena kilichona mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Mikaoch?
Ladies and gentlemen, wapenzi wachangiaji, na leo wamechangia huko kwa comments, ingawa tumewalenga kidogo, lakini wamechangia properly. Very nice conversation. Hila, thank you very much for gracing us with your time. I know right now you could have been doing other interesting stuff, but you took your time and you joined us today. Really appreciate that, and we appreciate you always creating time for us. Ukikuja, we will have to make a habit of when we come home to kutafutia.
We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice at this point.
Yeah. So, but then I want to thank you very much. Thank you for coming. And people, don't forget, Kekia is a plan. It's a plan. Koko East Coast, you don't have no reason to stay around. Kwanza kama umenyeshewa leo, imagine unaenda kwa beach in a week. Next time ukapiga na beach, kuna upepo wa bahari. Haya, there it is.
Msanii Mika.
Mika ndashuka tu alafu tuende tukienda.
Mika Platinum.
Mimi kwa ready na unina kwa passenger princess. Mnaanza nipitia mtu anibeba na kurudisha kwangu.
Mika Platinums.
We toa tu hiyo nini kwa kutoka garage. Tutaifikisha.
Tutaifikisha, itafika tu.
Utapanda pesa.
Oh hell no.
Ujamaa yani.
Oh hell no.
Do you know
Tesla on a road trip afadhali ni baki ama afadhali afadhali ni pande Greyhound.
It's not as bad as what I went through. I can tell you for free.
Okay.
It's not as bad.
Hapo we're gonna have another show to discuss road trips with Teslas
or electric vehicles period.
Yeah. And then they run out of charge after 5 hours.
Ask
and then you have to wait 1 hour.
Boss, what
Wilmington 2 hours pekee. A full charge itatufikisha tuzurure na turudishe.
2 hours from where?
From where he is.
From hapa upadiliko.
And
I would still not trust it. Unaweza kuomba kucharge iko 30%. And then saizo unasema
no, but when you plug in within 30 minutes you're at 80. Sasa issue ndio.
But that's if there's no line.
There is never Tesla hakunaga line. Trust me.
Okay. Aya, sawa. Me, I'm still not buying.
This guy has this network down. If it was any other vehicle, I would say yeah. Tesla, the guy has this down. They figured it out.
Mimi
hizo gari zingine zinataka kuomba nini charging point yake ndio ikuwe universal.
Correct. And they're even changing their the plugins.
Aya,
Omosh.
Ndio watu wangu inaonekana kuna watu walikuwa nanungunika wakisema ati Omosh hajakuwa area, sijui alikuwa A-Town, sijui alikuwa wapi, but guess what? Niko hapa, I'm live and in charge. Na hizo bahasha watu wanasema mimi sijui ziko wapi. Unaiona? Do you see it?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't see it.
You spent it.
So Hila,
you are seen spending it.
Thanks once again. Hila, you come out of your way when you come in here for business and you are opening yourself up and you are helping us help other folks chambua this thing called finances, doing business. Hata stories ama avocado. Maybe there's somebody who didn't know that they could endelesha that avocado farm ndio iendelee. Just hearing you inspiring them and telling them that there is a loose cow here and there and some avocado trees. Now we know where we can be going to chill in Busia.
Yeah, I know.
You know, while so and trust me, we're coming.
Free guacamole.
All day long. We will come with our tomatoes from Wasewa Ongem na wanajijua. So Hila, thanks once again, and to our listeners, as usual, you guys are the ones who keep us honest. Please continue liking, subscribing on all the social media platforms out there. I think the tag is One Mic Show. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend. It's supposed to be hot next week in the East Coast, so if you're in the East Coast, drink up water, AC, working, and see you next week at Cape Fear.
Kabsa.
Cape Fear.
Yeah.
All right, asante sana Omosh. And back to you, Hila. Asante sana. You know, like I always know whenever you come, it's never easy to predict what you're gonna bring on the table, which is a good thing, because the goal is to get stuff, the one that's not being the stuff that people are not talking about.
Right.
Like especially today, one of the biggest pickups was you need to figure out if you're straight with your taxes.
Simple.
And just because you've never worked in Kenya does not mean that you're not required to file taxes. Even your kids, as long as you got for them a Kenyan passport, if you got for them a Kenyan passport, it means they had a Kenyan ID at some point, they are required to file for taxes. So if you ever have plans of moving back to Kenya or doing any kind of business in Kenya, just straighten this out, because one day these people are going to show up with a very big bill and they may take up your land. And Washeke brought up a very important issue. You know, like, yes, maybe you don't have property, but maybe you may have lost a parent and you're listed as the benefactor. So guess what? You're roped into the system. Now you're supposed to pay those taxes. I don't like the aggressive way in which they're trying to get these taxes, especially from people who are earning very low amounts of money. You know, like, this is never good. The laugher curve will start laughing back, you know, because and I don't know if they've not seen that when you have this kind of aggression, there will be less compliance. You know, like, people will start looking for other ways, other loopholes to stay away from paying taxes. So I don't know.
You know, the
Yes.
thing is, the way they've gone to it, it's so greedy in a point whereby you're taxing things that you're giving tax on things like sanitary pads. Kenya already is one of those countries where we have like, there's less access to sanitary pads by women. Like, there's no access to them by people because of poverty and because of cost. Even those drives or charity organizations that try to make that commodity reach out to people have to buy these things. Now, if you increase the taxes, that means you are reducing the reach that happens. And also those ones who are struggling to afford these things, you're still making them expensive. Diapers, right? Like, they're taxing every little tangible thing. The plastic bag tax is going to increase it's going to increase prices to everything, because bottles, everything that's bottled with plastic is Kenya is going to get, that's going to get to the consumer. That price difference is going to get the consumer. Small things like food commodities, unga, bread, right? Alcohol. As in, every little bit of thing is getting taxed. It's getting to a point whereby, is there enough income for you to tax these people this high? After you tax these people this high, will they have the money to buy these things that you are increasing the tax on them? Will they have that money to spend? And what will happen after that? You cannot overtax people.
Okay. Aya, asante sana Mika. We're gonna let Hila have the last word, and then we're gonna wrap up. Hila.
Antoni sana. Always a pleasure getting back in. Omosh, Badawi, Mika, on Mike, asanteni sana. I only have one thing, tongue in cheek. The next time I'd like to come around and say, ladies and gentlemen. So if you could actually add a bit more estrogen in the team, that will be really appreciated. But of course, great conversation as always. I mean, and I'd come in and join in anytime I'm around. So I'll still be around until the 26th. In case anyone is keen on trying to get a contact with the American Chamber of Commerce, I can share with that so that you can post them onto your handles. But for me to appreciate the fact that you gave me a chance to be on this call today. And I hope I enriched the audience as much as you've enriched my evening. Na ulisema kuna mali kuna mvua leo ilifika 97 degrees Atlanta. Sasa sijui ni wapi kulikuwa na mvua. Huku leo nimekipata. Kulikuwa na jua.
Majamaa hapo wakitoka nje sasa gari zao zitakuwa zimebebwa na maji.
Hiyo sasa it's because ulikuwa unafaa kwa hapa, but then you Atlanta we are gonna send a commission of inquiry to find out what's happening in Atlanta, because this Atlanta
ni joto.
Yeah, this Atlanta is
a problem.
Yeah, there's a problem going on there. And we are gonna figure it out.
Yes.
But anyway, asante sana Hila, and to me, kwa yote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile 1-800 mteule, na operator akishika simu mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Kwaherini.
June 16th apparently is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Hila, Mika, Ali, Omosh, and all the Mafans out there. Happy Father's Day to all of y'all. Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next time.
Happy Father's Day.
I swear.
Si kuna kanyama uko nini Bimo ya Father's Day? There's a cookout.
Where?
In Bimo.
Is it July 4th? July
for
4th weekend?
Men's.
That's July 4th.
Asha. No. There is one.
Okay.
Kuna wababa.
Yes, for wababa. Yes. It's
okay.
in Bimo.
Okay.
We'll figure that out.
You'll figure that out. Or we'll figure that out.
Or this. Ndiye anachoma nyama.
Oh yeah.
Now it's coming back, eh?
Now Yona says
I forgot. I don't even know what the addresses are.
Oh,
all right. We'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out and we'll post. Until the week after Cape Fear, be blessed. I guess DJ is not gonna take us out. Thanks, Hila.
Sante sana.